Good morning, everybody. Hopefully, you guys can hear me well.
We can hear you. Good morning. Good morning.
Good
Hey,
morning.
hey, Josh,
What's
how's
up?
it going? Great to have you here.
I'm good. I love it. You have a huge audience.
We
What's up,
love the
everyone?
community here. They're
Welcome.
so great. So we're always thankful to having everybody stop by. And there's so much going on in crypto this week, so I'm sure everybody's interested
Yeah.
in tuning in. Just another week.
Yeah. A good rally helps bring the interest in, and then a little drama helps keep the interest. So there we
Yeah, you
go.
always need a little
Yeah,
bit of drama to mix things up.
I was going to say there's never a dull moment here, ever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. What's up,
Dal,
chemist?
welcome.
Hey, good morning,
Yeah.
everybody. I still haven't got my coffee, so I might sound a little bit tired.
Yeah, we got to get that right.
Yeah, speaking of coffee, so Josh, what kind, are you a coffee drinker and what kind of coffee do you drink?
So I'm definitely into like the discount coffee because I'm a little cheap that way. So I'm into the Folgers right now. But the wife is a Starbucks connoisseur, so I kind of balance out her taste in coffee. But definitely already had a huge mug full, so I'm well caffeinated at this point.
Awesome. Folgers, haven't heard that one on here. That's a first.
Folgers in your cup, right? I can't even remember the commercial, something like that.
Yeah, if it's not Folgers, all Tim Hortons is a big one for me as well. But I'm Canadian, so you Americans might not. If you live in the States, you might not know what Tim Hortons
I've
is,
heard of it.
but it's a
Yeah,
very
they bring
Canadian
it up a
thing.
lot.
Yeah.
They do bring it up as the best coffee, so I have heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a debatable point. All Canadians know it's not the best, but we drink it because we're addicted. So
Awesome. But yeah, thank you everybody for coming. We're back for another week of crypto and coffee. Tammy, how's everything going with you? How's your week been?
My week's been great. It's been great this week. We've been busy, so that's a good thing. I like being busy. So yeah, it's been great keeping up with all the drama and all the news. I've been watching everything. So it was interesting last night. I felt like I just going through everything. I'm like, it would have been like 20 pages long, so I had to cut it off at some point. But how's your week been?
Can't complain, can't complain. Busy, busy, busy. Dal, I know you're off jet setting the world again. How's your travels going?
Great, great. Back in LA, back in Los Angeles. It's sunny. It's a little cold in the morning, but it's actually gorgeous in the afternoon. So loving it. And yeah, this week was fun. We had the Arbitrum Airdrop. That was very
yeah,
interesting and still being interesting. So exciting week, man. Crypto is like I don't know, a day in crypto is like 2 months somewhere else. So it feels like I've aged quite a lot this week.
Completely agree. Josh, the only thing, if you're new to Twitter Spaces, it's kind of buggy, the audio. So if you're not speaking, just mute your mic because we might get some background noise. But yeah, before we kick it off, we will start with the Arbitrum airdrop. What went well? What went wrong? And I know Dow and Josh, you both are deep in the Arbitrum ecosystem. Josh, you have a project on there called Handle.Fi, which we'll be getting into as well. But before we get started, friendly disclaimer, nothing said here is financial advice. We are not financial advisors. This is strictly for educational and sometimes entertainment purposes. A quick shout out to my partners at Binance US. No trading fees on ETH and BTC. You can check out my pinned tweet for more information. And now that we got all that disclaimer stuff out of the way, let's get it going. So I'll throw it over to Josh or Down. Tell us a little bit about what happened with the Arbitrum airdrop. So obviously that happened this week. It didn't go as smoothly as expected, but it seems like things have settled down. So who wants to maybe kick it off with that? Go ahead, Josh.
yeah, I can. So I've been around the Arbitrum ecosystem since all the applications launched in September of 2021. So it's been quite a ride. because it started out as a very small ecosystem, and the kind of premier app in the ecosystem was GMX, and they really pioneered on-chain perpetuals trading, or you would know it as futures trading if you're on a centralized exchange. And they kind of just brought in a bunch of liquidity, TVL, and opened people's minds to the idea that you can do things on chain. And then obviously what happened to FTX kind of brought the awareness that, hey, maybe we should be trading in DeFi because, you know, we can see transparently the positions in the liquidity pools. We can see the open interest. We can see the total exposure of the ecosystem. We can see what each wallet's position is in real time. And that kind of data and clarity is something that doesn't always exist in trading. And so that ecosystem blew up and became this really large ecosystem, multi-billion dollars of TVL. And Arbitrum didn't drop a coin for a while. Optimism had theirs first. And obviously you have Avalanche, you have Solana, you have Binance Smart Chain, and a number of other alternative layer ones that really got prominence because Ethereum was unusable. And so why layer twos were developed is to help scale Ethereum, you know, being able to use Ethereum, but transact really quickly and for, you know, 1 or 2 pennies. And so Arbitrum really got that momentum. And then this week, out of the blue, they announced that, hey, our airdrop's going to be what ended up being yesterday. And there was, I believe, 800,000 wallets signed up, DAO or Chemist. Do you remember how many wallets? Maybe 400,000?
Uh,
We
I
don't
think
know.
DAO's lagging. But yeah, there was like 800,000 wallets, quite a few wallets that were allocated this airdrop, and I, you know, no different than any sort of network. If all of those wallets try to claim their tokens at once, the network, you know, kind of bugs out and crashes, not crashes, but gets the blocks get filled up really quick. And I think the transaction fees went from 1 to 5 cents what they were, you know, a few days ago to at one point I was transacting at $36 on chain. So it was everyone was trying to get their airdrop and get their tokens to an exchange where they could realize the value of that airdrop and the price of RB. You know, OTC was trading about 1.5, maybe $2. And then on exchanges, it opened at like, you know, 3, 4, and then went to 2, and then down into the ones. So a lot of drama.
Yeah, and it makes sense. Like I thought about it for a while, and I was like, when I saw the FUD on the timeline. But if you think about it, like even if let's take Taylor Swift concert, like just everybody going to a website at once, it's gonna bring it down. And but then I
Yeah.
started thinking more about like why. I just started thinking about like airdrops in general, and then I was like, why do they even call them airdrops? They should call them claim drops because you actually have to claim it. Um, Sorry, I was just rambling thoughts. But yeah, what do you just throwing it out there? Like, what do you guys think can be done to like prevent these mass, everybody wanting to get it at once? Is there a better way to do these?
Chemist, you wanna take that one?
sure. Can you guys hear me right? Am
Yeah,
I
you sound much better now,
am I
Joe.
lagging or? Oh, okay. Great, great, great. Yeah, I think that's a great point. It just is a lot easier to implement that way, right? In terms of involving smart contract to just ask people to actually claim the transaction that way. I remember like a couple of years ago, when people were still trying to figure out the best practice around airdrop, there were a few projects that actually literally did airdrop, but it was super expensive. And there's a few software that enables you to do that, and you have to put up all the different addresses into like a batch service. And it's always going to be a pain, right? I don't think there's like a perfect solution. Yeah, this one, obviously because the servers can only take so much demand, right? The website is going to be down, but at the same time, like I think a lot of people were okay just waiting for a day or a couple of hours after all the drama has passed to claim. So it's a small, in my opinion, right? In my opinion, it's a small issue. But yeah, can it be optimized? Definitely. It's just I remember like the early days of airdrop and people try to optimize it, and it would cost like hundreds of thousands. So yeah, when we get to transaction being sub pennies, probably project can actually do an airdrop, right? Not a claim drop, as you say. So when it's cheaper, they'll probably make it happen that way.
Yeah, that name is deceiving. It's not an airdrop, it's a claim drop. Let's rename.
Yeah, the pioneers of the airdrop was a project called OMG or Omise Go, and they did the first airdrop back in like 2016, 2017, if I remember. But for this one specifically, uh, the team didn't do enough to say, hey, you have 6 months to claim this thing, so there's no rush. And I think that caused a lot of FOMO. And also, the exchanges went live as the airdrop was happening, which causes an incentive for people to rush their tokens to an exchange to kind of realize that value. So, technically speaking, I'm not exactly sure as I'm not a smart contract dev, but I think they could have done a week window claim period and then opened up the centralized exchanges at that point for trading. So that might have been an easier way to kind of manage the traffic.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. The only downside I would see about that then would people start trying to OTC trade. But you know what? Degens are always going to degen. I did see that Matt came up. Matt, welcome and good morning. Do you have any thoughts about claim drops?
Good morning. Good morning. Yeah, it just struck me as kind of, odd just hearing Dow say, oh, and then the websites were going down. And it's kind of like this is what we're meant to be getting away from with Web3. And it just seems crazy that we're still back here at this issue of centralized points of failure still. I mean, we've had things like decentralized exchanges now for what, a decade. Like, the XRP ledger was the first DEX. You could just issue on that, right? I don't see why we're still pushing for like centralized websites for managing these things when you can do it on chain anyway. I mean, even on like slower like Ethereum based networks that are more expensive, you could still do it that way. It seems like the bottleneck here seems to be trying to do too much on the website, and that's the bit that I think we need to get away from.
Yeah, I think that's a great take. Yeah, that's a great take. I agree.
Yeah, they didn't do enough to educate people that you can go to RBScan and connect your Web3 wallet and interact with the contract directly. So everyone tried to use the website front end, of course. But that's, when you have 800,000 wallets that are eligible for this thing,
A
it's
lot.
just that's the nature of what happens, right? Is people want an interface, a website that they trust, a domain name they trust. They don't necessarily realize that, hey, I can throw this contract address in and verify and interact with it directly. So it's, but that's up to the Arbitrum team to educate people on that. So, they missed that opportunity.
Yeah, and that's actually a very good point talking about trust there. And I think that's why a lot of these things end up getting more centralized than technically they need to be, is due to like trust and reputation and that kind of thing. Because I was just about to chime in and say, well, hey, you could host the website on IPFS, right? And that would make it a lot more decentralized. You could load it from any IPFS gateway, but you then you're adding in an extra element there that people need to know. Okay, well, I have to go via like a IPNS naming service or something like that to get to it, or if I want to load it from a particular gateway, I need to know the CID. And then you've got people like looking at random CIDs going, well, is that the right one? Am I going to get rug pulled? There's such a massive opportunity there for someone malicious to kind of come in and say, hey, look, we fixed the scaling, just come to this new website, or use this particular page on IPFS, and you can do it. And I think, yeah, that's the problem. I think as with all computer security, it's perfectly fine until you stick humans in the mix, and then it all goes wrong.
Great points. But yeah, so there were some hiccups. But on the positive side, I mean, this has been a much anticipated airdrop. Dow, were you able to claim airdrops? Is that why you're traveling across the world now?
You got me there. Yeah, I was eligible for almost all the criterias for the airdrop. The one thing I did not do, I guess I forgot about it, was to play with what they call Arbitrum Nova. It's like their second roll up. It's a little less secure. I think it's meant for social media and gaming. So I forgot to play with that aspect. Didn't have didn't interact with that chain. But other than that, yeah, like all my criteria were green. I had most of my bags on Arbitrum, so I was able to claim it right away. I was asleep anyway. So yeah, I did see the web page not being able to wasn't able to reach it right away. Just wait a couple of hours, and then I was able to claim it. And I'm actually this is not financial advice. I'm pairing my Arbitrum with ETH on a decentralized exchange called Camelot. And the APR, when I started, was around 500. And then I locked it for 6 months. So I can take my LPs. Like the idea is that if you lock it for a certain amount of time, then you should be getting a high reward. So right now I'm earning, I think, like 270% on it. Again, it's not financial advice. I just figured like it's a nice airdrop, but I wanted to contribute to the liquidity so that people can go in and out if they want to sell. In my opinion, I think yes, it was important to get the airdrop right away, but it's not necessarily the priority. The priority is that people that want to be involved in the Arbitrum ecosystem can claim their airdrop now in the next 6 months and participate in the ecosystem because it's a DAO, right? So it's really not necessarily meant for you to sell and make a lot of money, but it's really meant for you to participate in the ecosystem, vote on decisions, because the Arbitrum ecosystem is trying to grow. If you want to build a layer 3, you can actually leverage the technology, and you also will need some tokens to be able to do that. And people that have the token will be able to vote on certain parameters for that ecosystem. So I'm a happy RB hodler, and I'll be so for a long term.
Yeah, and the project that Chemist was referring to, Camelot, has a really awesome story. I met with them first November of last year before they launched their token, and their pitch was very simple. We're creating an AMM that's specific and bespoke to any of the projects that want to have liquidity on our application. And at the time, the only swap areas was either GLP, Sushi Swap, Uniswap, and there might have been maybe a couple others that I'm missing, but there was none that was Arbitrum native. And one thing that I've seen with Arbitrum is that projects come to Arbitrum and they build specific applications for the community, and they actually do quite well because there's just such a strong ecosystem of builders there. And people, support each other, and they want to do integrations and they want to do partnerships, and it's actually been a really amazing place to build. In terms of a chain. So
That's awesome. Yeah. Before I throw it back to you, Josh, so we can learn more about Handle.Fi, I can say that I'm experiencing max pain because Dow has been sitting in these spaces for the past 9 months talking about Arbitrum, and I did nothing, zero. I didn't even check if I was eligible because I know I have nothing. So Max Payne, hopefully people that were listening to Dow listened to him and did not ignore him like I did. So, but yeah, Josh, I mean, I think it's a great point what you're talking about. That ecosystem has been lots of builders. Dow's been talking about it for months. So you guys have Handle.Fi on Arbitrum. So tell us a little bit more about what you guys are building on there.
yeah, so Handle is a multi-currency protocol, which is a fancy way of saying we offer stable coins in your national currency. So you can get Korean won, Filipino pesos. We got Great British pounds. We have euro. What other currencies we got on here? CNY, which is Chinese yuan. We got Swiss francs, CAD, JPY, which is Japanese yen, and Singapore dollars. So we have a number of currencies that are out, other than the US dollar, that are available on Arbitrum. And one of our theses is that the crypto DeFi space is so dominated by the US dollar in terms of the stablecoin offerings there that there's no one really building kind of a broad currency suite of products. And so what you get with Handle is a very similar Forex trading experience to normal Forex trading, except the liquidity vault, or what we call HLP, handle liquidity pool, is denominated as DXY, which is a basket of national currencies that trade against the US dollar. So you have USD and DXY. So in terms of like parking funds there, you earn the fees from trading, which is great. Very similar to how GMX's GLP works, but also allows people to trade or hedge FX. And yeah, these national currencies don't exist very widely in DeFi, or if they do, one provider is focusing on one vertical of stablecoins. But these stablecoins work in the very same way that DAI works. So you bring collateral and then you mint out DAI, and what's backing the DAI is the collateral itself. So same mechanisms, except for DAI being just pegged to the US dollar. These are pegged to different national currencies. And then there's mechanisms involved to ensure the collateral ratios are healthy. And then there's any liquidations that happen to those collateral ratios. And that's a fancy way of saying, if you bring ETH to the platform and you're backing, you bring your ETH and you, let's say, mint out CAD. Well, if your ETH declines in CAD terms or Canadian dollar terms, then at some point your position will be liquidated. But for the most part, it's a much more stable kind of way of minting out stable coins. So yeah, we've been working on this for 2 years. Handle as a team has been around for a while. We think Forex is a very underserved part of DeFi or crypto in general. Our national currencies are what dominate our life every day. If you live in Switzerland, you deal with Swiss francs. You don't necessarily deal with the US dollar every day as the average person. And, we think that's an underserved market. In the legacy financial system, Forex trading is massive, multi-trillion dollars a day in terms of volume. So it's a very large opportunity, and it's just no one's done it. So that's kind of the niche we play in. If you go to Handle.Finance or Handle.Fi, you'll see in the top right-hand corner, you can try it out. The other things that we've done is there's in the settings, you can choose multiple themes. So we have like a what we call handle view theme, a Handleberg theme, and similar to a DYDX theme. So you can actually change your terminal to look like, one of the very famous terminals out there that people use, like the Bloomberg one, and it looks kind of cool. So we've really played into allow people to customize their interface, and then you can drag the charts around. So we were the first to do this ability to drag charts around and have like your own kind of customized terminal on Arbitrum. So yeah, that's what Handle does. And we route for the ETH and BTC trades there. We route through GMX's GLP. So we're big fans of the blueberries as well.
Is that what they're called? They go by blueberries?
Yes. Yes. I'm trying to see if I see any blueberries in the audience, but yeah, shout out to you blueberries out there.
Interesting. I did not know that. Why are they called blueberries?
I don't know, but this young guy from France called Apodile on Twitter, he was the guy that created it, and he's done incredibly well for himself. So good for him. And he's just a really young guy, probably like early 20s. And it's done incredibly well. But they're very cute. Like they actually look really, really nice. So.
Nice. And so hi, obviously you're not from the US, you're from Canada. Is that the reason why you decided to take the approach with this project and focusing on stable coins that are like pegged to different currencies? What made you take this approach for Handle.Fi?
It's just that Forex was underserved. So I'm not the founder. There's another founder, and his background is in traditional finance, 30 years in TradFi, and he was a derivative trader for currencies. So he's just, saw that there's no one serving that market and said someone needs to. So that's why we did it. But generally, the thesis being just the world is dominated by the US dollar, but we all have our own national currencies. And so if you want to settle a trade in CNY, you can do that. So you can trade Forex, but settle it back in Chinese yuan or Korean CRW and Swiss franc. So I don't know. I just think that's an underserved area. You don't show up to Sushi Swap and beside USDC, there's Great British Pound as your settlement option. That just doesn't exist.
Yeah, and obviously you guys have been building on Arbitrum for a while now, so you must have seen something like what made you guys choose to deploy on Arbitrum?
Yeah, well, Arbitrum is actually started as a research paper of how to scale Ethereum, and then Vitalik, was really behind kind of helping push that paper forward. Ed Fulton, I believe is his name, was a university doctorate researcher, and came up with this methodology and applied it to Ethereum, and then that became something that they launched. And it was just at the time there's like ZK rollups were like another kind of scaling solution, but none of that was in market. It was really just Arbitrum and then Optimism that got to market. And for the security of Ethereum, like you really got to be associated, I think, to the liquidity of Ethereum. Like here's a really great example, like Binance Smart Chain and Solana and Avalanche now are really VC backed, or they have a lot of liquidity from kind of these large companies or organizations that help them succeed, and they're great products. Like I absolutely love Binance Smart Chain and what they've done. I love Solana and what they've done. I met Raj and Anatoly before they even launched the Sol token, so I'm a huge fan. But when it comes to DeFi, like you really need a secure, medium to transact, and Ethereum leads security on that. Full stop. And they've kind of led the way. And then now, when you get optimistic rollups, what you're doing is batching transactions and then running them down to the main chain. So you're using native Ethereum, but it's much faster. And then they introduced the Nitro upgrade in September, which took the transaction fees from $1 down to 1 to 5 cents, and the transaction times were much faster. And so when you look at what's out there, you're like, look, we can launch on all these other chains that are throwing out incentives and VCs are behind them. Or we could say, look, like I think Ethereum's going to win DeFi, and this is a solution to scale Ethereum. So it's a pretty, obvious area for DeFi to thrive in.
It's refreshing to hear you be kind to Sol rather than hearing somebody constantly FUD it. So that was nice to hear.
Solana's gone through its troubles, no doubt, but what the guys there are from Qualcomm, and they took the technology to sync up the synchronization of cell towers, and then brought that to they saw that technology being implemented on the blockchain side to synchronize the chain state. And their big focus is low latency. So if you're a consumer application and you do something on an app in a game and you have to wait 30 seconds to get your prize, and the spin wheel is just spinning while you're waiting 30 seconds, like that's a long time for a user to stick around and look at your app and just wait. So they've focused on, can we get transactions through really, really hyper fast, so that to the user, they can use on-chain products in an application, but they're not waiting for the transaction. So really low latency is what they're focused on, while Ethereum and Arbitrum are focused on really high security. The network always prints blocks. It's always working. It's the area where most value is trusted to be in. So yeah.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And so now, obviously, Arbitrum is, in the spotlight, but there's also other scaling solutions, other layer twos. Are any plans to maybe branch out to other L2s or other blockchains at this time?
No, not right now. I think right now everyone on Arbitrum and is just trying to find product market fit for their application, and then if those opportunities exist, like you really realistically in crypto, you got to go where the users are. And when you're in DeFi, most of the users in value are going to be probably on Arbitrum. In terms of just it's using Ethereum. It's just Ethereum, but faster, essentially. So DeFi is where Ethereum started, or sorry, DeFi is really, it lived on Ethereum first. So I don't see that changing.
Great to hear. And we do have an ETH enthusiast up here. Daniel, welcome. Good morning.
Hey, GM everyone. What's up? Love the conversation.
Good morning. What are your thoughts about everything happening with Arbitrum? Did you claim your airdrop? Have you tried out Handle.Fi?
No, I haven't tried Handle.Fi. I saw your tweet this morning. I think I'm gonna get into it. But no, I missed the airdrop for Arbitrum. Surprisingly, I I'm pretty digital when it comes to security, so I use like multiple wallets. And I was dabbling in the Arbitrum ecosystem, but I don't know how the point scheme. Anyways, none of my wallets that I use to do things in Arbitrum, like none of them hit any, like, I guess the points that I needed to get the claim. But that's fine, that's part of the game, right? You have to be in it. It's definitely not as easy as it used to be. Like now, you really need to be a complete degen about it, really love the project, or be building on it to get an airdrop. Uh,
But isn't that a good thing? I mean, that's a good
that,
thing,
that is a
right?
great thing because it creates diamond hands, right? Like basically you are bootlegging your project with a bunch of diamond handed people, which is awesome. Yeah, that's what you want.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of passionate people. I mean, I was part of a team building on there, so there was a good incentive to be active and part of that. And I missed DeFi summer, so the all the vegetable tokens like Yam Finance and all the craziness that happened in the early days of DeFi, like I kind of missed all that. But when layer two came along, I was like, all right, I'm not going to miss this. This is going to happen. And I've been around Ethereum since late 2015, mid 2015, and so I used Ethereum back then. And when I used Arbitrum for the first time, it felt like I was using Ethereum in 2015. It was quick, it was cheap to use, and it was like the initial promise of Ethereum but faster. And yeah, you really, I think, have to be in the ecosystem in terms of building. But I mean, on the other hand, it's all where the exciting applications were being built. Like DYDX is a great product, but GMX just really unlocked the potential of true DeFi, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that there will be, there's always airdrops, right? So if you find something you're passionate about, or find something you like in these projects that don't have a token and they're growing, especially in the zk ecosystems or environments, I guess. Yeah, I would say, go for it, go nuts.
Thanks, Daniel. And we have Dow back. Dow, it looks like you got rugged.
Yeah, I got Ruck, so I had to bring my alter ego upstage. The alter ego is a bit more optimistic and more awake than the previous one. So
I like Wag Me, Dow.
I
Wag Me.
appreciate that. But yeah, so just want to say, like, I think Handle.Fi is tackling, in my opinion, or I think it's the biggest market in terms of volume, right? Forex trading is probably trillions of dollars per day, and it provides one of the most essential activity for the market, right? Like you can imagine if you are a business or any kind of economic activity, you probably do need to trade with other countries or businesses in other countries, right? So that need for foreign exchange is massive, right? Beyond speculating, there are real utility there for everyday businesses. So the fact that we have a protocol in DeFi that's tackling that, I think that's one of those things where it's not just about creating casino for DGen to trade, but it's actually about adding real world value. And so, JD, can you touch on how the Forex exchange is being used in the real world and the kind of utility that you guys can tackle?
$7.5 trillion daily is the Forex volume. I mean, why Forex really exists is because we trade, goods and services to each other in different countries. So that's why these markets exist. And as you mentioned, merchants have foreign currency exposure all the time, and so they need to trade or hedge that exposure. As a non-US citizen, it's, your exposure to the US dollar is quite a bit. For instance, the CAD has gone down from 120 to the US dollar to now 140. And that 20 cents difference, in one way, makes our economy more attractive for US dollar denominated buyers because they can hire labor, or they can hire or buy goods in Canada at a much cheaper price in their dollar terms. But if I'm going to the US to go buy things, it becomes way more expensive.
Can I ask a question? Because I understand the upper layer, like the exchanging of assets on your platform, but like typically when you do forex trading, you are definitely a casino player. You're just degening with that. That's my experience with forex, at least. Is there an off ramp? Like if I want to buy another currency, can I off ramp that in that currency? Can I get that somewhere? Like how does that work? Otherwise, it's just a casino, right?
Yeah, so right now, no. But what we're starting to do is pair up liquidity pools. So if there's a provider of Canadian dollars, there's one called CAD-C. We will provide an FX CAD and then a CAD-C pool. So it's a one-to-one kind of swap. And then they can take that out and, do what they need to do. Your question is, I think, a little misleading. Like basically all on-chain applications at this point are somewhat, for trading and speculative purposes. Uh, the FX tokens are not synthetic assets. So they are, if you look at like gains, for instance, the FX trading there is purely synthetic. So it's purely just looking at a price feed and trading the price feed, essentially, is what you're doing. But your collateral is moving back and forth in DAI. With Handle.Fi, our underlying currencies are actually currencies that you can use and redeem. But it's not like you can swap in and then go to your bank and send them, your FX tokens and get that in to pay your mortgage. Like you can't even do that with USDC right now, anyways. So I would say the stable coins to going back or off ramping doesn't really exist in stable coins anyways
So when you
at this
mentioned
point.
settling in nations and in other nations fiat currency, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, so let's say you want to do a trade in CNY against the dollar for whatever purpose, either you're speculating or hedging, you can actually choose to settle it back in CNY.
Yeah, I guess that's the part that I'm not following.
Okay, so your trade is your trade collateral, and when you choose to settle your trade, can be in currency other than USDC, DAI, etc.
Yeah, but you're still in the market, right, for that. If there's not an off ramp or anything like that, you're still kind of.
Yeah, I mean, if you ask how many people pull their crypto assets out of DeFi into stable coins and then move it to an exchange and then into their bank account, it's not many, because even going from Arbitrum to mainnet to do a transaction like that is 7 days. So you have to wait 7 days for your assets to leave Arbitrum. So not many people in crypto, once they move their assets on chain and they're involved in the crypto space, not often are they moving them back
Yeah.
out.
I might be the only one that takes
So
profits then. Don't forget to take profit.
Yes, you are the only person that takes. Why are you cashing out to fiat? Like, come on, Daniel. I thought you were DeFi
I want to buy
Daniel.
stuff. Indeed.
You're giving
that DeFi on your name's a little loose
So
there, buddy.
Bait, yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
I
Daniel,
guess so.
he's a Bitcoin maxi now,
Oh
by the way.
no.
eh,
Just to close up, Nico, for JD. Okay, okay, I understand that. It'll be interesting to see what happens to your volume, once now that the news about, potential brick uh um coming up stronger than the US dollars, and anyways, there's a potential there for people going into your platform, right, to start degenning.
Yeah, look, we want people to be safe, so be careful. But yeah, I mean, we're just serving an area that doesn't exist otherwise. That's it.
Cool.
Yeah, actually, that's a great follow up. Like, what's your take on maybe not geopolitics, but like the adoption of CBDCs and stablecoin regulation? Like, obviously, we know that there's a lot of issue in the states, but do you have any like vision for maybe like as Daniel was saying, like on ramps in different currencies, or do you have like an idea of where probably the space can grow in terms of regulation? Are there countries that are more friendly for stable coins to be accepted and on ramp or off ramps?
Yeah, so I actually do have opinions. I won't comment on regulation at all. I'll stay well away from that question. But I think there's a really good Real Vision interview with the guys from QCP Capital, Darius Sit, and he talks about USDT or Tether being used in Asia in the 2017 timeframe. And he said people would be like, well, the volumes are all fake. There's no way that many people are using USDT. But in reality, what he said is you could go to convenience stores or these small shops in Asia and you could exchange your local currency for dollars and get USDT back. And I've heard even in India, the way that they actually move money in India between regional banking areas and sometimes is in Tether. Because it works really well. It transacts instantly. It is, very extremely liquid. There's like what 70, $80 billion in Tether now. There's a lot of issues I think with Tether around, do they have backing for that? But in this latest stable coin issue with Circle, Circle, we know the reserves. We can even see the QSIPs of the treasuries that are backing those assets. We know the bank accounts of where those dollars sit. And even then did it depeg. It depegged to 89 cents on the dollar. Whereas Tether, we don't know any of this. And it was trading at 102, 103. So I think stable coins aren't going anywhere. In terms of CBDCs, I actually don't have as pessimistic a view as what crypto Twitter has on this. I think CBDCs will be great for targeting, stimulus where it needs to be. So right now, every time they do stimulus, the U.S. Fed or whatnot, like they're really just kind of hitting the economy with a sledgehammer and spraying stimulus everywhere. I don't think that's the right approach. I think there is a world we live in where, certain people that need interest on their savings, especially low income people or people that don't have tons of wealth, they can realize interest on their savings. Whereas, let's say people who are very wealthy and have tons of assets, the effects of 0% interest rates benefit them much more because they own assets, right? And so I believe a CBC, no different than how you can program money in crypto, allows us to tailor these types of stimulus to the most vulnerable people who need it and pull it back a little bit from the ultra wealthy who don't necessarily need those interest rates. So, programmable money is what essentially CBDC is. The politics of it and how it should be regulated, I'll stay very clear of that. But I think there is a world where inevitably we go to this. Again, CBDCs are just technology, so it will become an arms race, right? And you look at what China was the first to come out with saying, "Hey, we're testing CBDCs in the real world," and essentially, there's no China can go to any application or any country in Africa and say, here's an SDK, drop it in your app, and now all your users can have wallets, digital wallets that interface with CNY, right? And that's it becomes a technology race at that point. And I think the US really needs to realize that. And we saw Facebook try and tackle this with Libra and then rebranding it to DM. And yeah, the pushback to me doesn't seem reasonable. I think it needs to be explored.
Thanks, Josh. Great insights. Great insights. I do see we have a hand up. Nico, welcome and good morning.
Good morning, everyone. How's everybody doing?
Doing good.
So I missed part. All right, what your liquidity pools? What are you backing them with when you when you create, like, let's just say for argument's sake, you're doing the Russian ruble, right? What are you backing liquidity pools with?
So to be clear, we don't do the Russian ruble, but it's the
I'm
same
using it that I'm trying to think of a currency that's not the euro or
Yeah.
dollar. It's something smaller.
All right. What
That's
about
why
CAD?
you mentioned it.
CAD. So it's the exact same mechanism that DAI uses. So you bring collateral and then you mint out the FX tokens, and the collateral backs the FX tokens in individual vaults. And then there's a liquidation mechanism that makes sure that collateral ratio is healthy. And then the trading on the platform uses something called HLP, or handles liquidity pool, which is the same as GMX's GLP, but for currencies instead of crypto assets.
Did that answer your question, Nico? Great question, by the way, and thanks for coming up.
No problem.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Nico.
So it's any like literally anything, because all right. So one of the things that's an issue with stablecoins right now is that they're not that it's the whole backing to the dollar, and people haven't realized this, but they actually stablecoins kind of compete, and they created a weird strength for the dollar and a weakness at the same time. So like that's why I feel like they're kind of cracking down on the stable coins. Now you're kind of creating a stable coin, but you're not backing it with their own currency. So I'm trying to figure out how this is gonna, and I'm not against it. I'm just trying to figure out how this is gonna play out with it either. Also,
Yeah, like let's say you bring $1,000 worth of ETH to Handle, you put it in a vault, and you mint out $500 of FX CAD, and so that collateral ratio, or the extra $500 that you brought, difference kind of over collateralizes the stablecoin position. This is exactly how DAI works today. So DAI has liquidations. You go to DeFi Llama, you can even see the liquidation areas for DAI itself. So DAI is pegged to the dollar, but how you get DAI is you bring ETH to the contract, and it mints out DAI.
Thanks, Josh. Death, welcome and good morning.
Good morning, and of course, thank you for having me up as always. Great space so far, and I just have a question for JD for you guys as an operation. Which jurisdiction are you guys located in?
We are located on Arbitrum.
They're DeFi D, gentlemen.
I won't. Yeah.
Oh, so you guys don't have like a business or an organization that you're registered anywhere in?
I don't know that because I'm not the founder, so I'd have to ask him.
All right.
Thank you.
I do have a comment, real quick, to touch back on regulation and stuff. Like, I know you can't touch on that, but I think it was November where the French Banque de France, like the French central bank, the Swiss equivalent of a central bank, and the Singapore Financial Authority, they call like the MAS, they work together to actually do FX trading, right? And kind of thinking of cross borders CBDC, and they were actually using like a fork of Uniswap or something similar to Uniswap, and they were actually providing liquidity using AMMs and stuff like that. So we right there, 3 different countries around the world were playing with DeFi to use FX. So see, it seems like you guys are going in the right direction. Is there any, I would say, like application around the world that you think is ready for DeFi adoption? And I guess just to make my question a bit simpler, like, is there one country that's looking at DeFi with open arms that you guys can work with?
It's hard to say because the answer probably there, open arms, is no, other than maybe Dubai has friendly regulation. The UK is actually feeling very progressive around crypto regulation because they want to win the race against the US, it seems, in terms of projects coming there. But as for use case, as I mentioned earlier, like people used to question Tether's on-chain volume, and what ended up happening is that Tether was used throughout Asia as for various means, right, to get dollars. And you can, if you go into a convenience store in Asia, you can get Tether on your iOS smartwatch, or you can leave with a stack of US dollars in your pocket, right? Like it's just not accessible, I think, to everyone to have to access US dollars around the world. I don't live in these countries, so I can't exactly comment. But as we know with crypto, it's easy. You can hold it on your smartwatch, right? And I think that's really powerful. But one story I have heard recently is that in India, they are using Tether to balance the ledgers of regional money players. I don't know if they're banks or what they are in India, but if there's an imbalance of funds in one city in India versus the other, they're actually using Tether to buy dollars and then send those instantly to another city in India where there's another market for Tether or dollars, and then they're selling it there, right? And so they can balance their books using USDT. I don't know at what scale that's happening, but I've heard that it is a use case for Tether that people don't realize.
That's interesting. Hadn't heard about that before, but great question, Dal. But yeah, we are coming close to the top of the hour. So, Josh, I did want to give you an opportunity. Anything you want to leave us with, or anything that's coming up or that's new that recently launched that maybe you want to let the community know about?
Uh, yeah, I mean, nothing specific. I think try these on-chain products, give them a chance. There's DeFi has a lot of really amazing things to offer. Please be very safe when doing these things, using this technology, because it is not without risk. I personally have lost funds in crypto, so it does happen. But yeah, go to my Twitter profile. If you click on Handle, give us a follow. Give me a follow if you want, and you can check out our ticker symbol, or I shouldn't say ticker, but our symbol is Forex. So little money sign and then Forex. And if you go to Handle.Fi, you can click the app and try it out. Again, started building on Arbitrum a couple of years ago, and so we've been at it for a while now, and we're starting to see some traction, which is great. But I think there's a lot of areas for crypto technology to make people's lives a lot better. I know a lot of my personal financial assets and net worth is on chain. It's not necessarily in the traditional stocks and registered retirement savings programs. Like, to me, I trust and believe more in Ethereum than I do even my own financial system in my own country. So I think we're all in the right spot. So appreciate your time, everyone, and questions and whatnot.
Yeah, we appreciate you taking the time out, and congrats to you and the team and the whole Arbitrum community. Everybody who faded it is, sitting out on the sidelines watching you guys just, live life to the fullest.
No, we're open. We want more friends. We love you all. There's no FOMO, there's no fear of missing out. Don't feel that. Just support Ethereum development. That's it, I think, at the end of the day.
That's awesome. I think that's a great point. Yeah, I mean, if you think about it long term, we're still early. I know that's the cliche saying, but it is what it is. But yeah, we definitely thank you for coming by and letting us know about Handle.Fi. We're going to keep it going. You're welcome to stick around if you want to hang out and chat. If you need to drop off, totally understand. But yeah, a lot of other stuff.
I'm here to lurk.
You're going to lurk. But yeah, before you drop off, since you do have a crypto punk, any thoughts about what happened this week with the punks and Blur, or just with Blur in general, what it's done to the NFT ecosystem?
Yeah, so I'm a very long-term punk holder. I minted my punks in July 2017, and were among, actually I didn't mint them. They were claimable back then. And so they were all claimed, and so I started placing bids. So, to use the right proper terminology. But the punks contract was really one of the first Web3 applications. This was pre-connect your wallet. You had to take the smart contract and put it into a wallet called Mist. And then you had to interact with the contract functions through this Mist wallet. And then you could then place bids and whatnot. And that would then be reflected on the Larva Labs CryptoPunks website. And so punks were recognized as one of the first real kind of NFT projects as we know them today, and inspired the NFT standard. And so, yeah, I mean, the drama with Blur is that Blur is a new marketplace for NFTs, and one of their key selling points is that the image of the profile picture is really small, and so they focus more on the liquidity and the trading of the floor of these projects. And essentially, similar to what happened to the Bored Apes, like someone saw a wall of liquidity there and just sold a bunch of punks and previous to that apes into the market, and the floor went down from like 75 ETH to like 60 ETH in minutes. So, but this is just things that we're learning. I'm a long time punk fan, so even that we're at this space or this area with NFTs is incredible to me. When I heard NBA was doing Top Shot and someone's like, "Oh, it's an NFT," I'm like, "Bro, wow, I can't believe that's happening." So
Talk about getting
OG.
it early. Holy cow.
it was week 2, maybe 2.5, July 9th. Yeah, on July 9th, 2017. So long time ago.
Yeah, should be interesting to see how that plays out. I know a lot of artists in the space are not a huge fans of Blur, and just like how it's like focused so much on the trading aspect of NFTs versus, the art and so forth.
Yeah, it's inevitable. Like DeFi and NFTs have kind of slowly merged. So there was NFTX doing like a index fund for the different NFT projects where you could trade the floor price. And then there was fractional.art that said, well, put these NFTs in a vault and then we'll fractionalize it. And famously, the Dogecoin image was fractionalized by Pleaser DAO. So we've kind of seen this marriage happen. Obviously, Looks Rare launched as an OpenSea competitor, dropping the fees to zero, got a lot of attention. And then now Blur said, well, maybe there's a different type of marketplace. So all these things are kind of just, working in concert to create liquidity for the overall ecosystem. I think it's a net positive for artists. They might not like their art or things traded like that, but overall it brings liquidity. So.
Couldn't agree more. In Motion, I saw you're up here. Did you want to chime in? I saw you throwing up some 100s. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Yeah, I just wanted to say great project and good luck with everything.
Yo, thanks. Appreciate that.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens with Blur. But in other news, obviously, this week, SEC has been in the spotlight. Gensler has gone wild. I mean, there's no other way to say it. I have a list of things that happened this week, but just starting with one that wasn't talked about a lot was the sushi SEC subpoena. So Sushi got a subpoena. Justin's son got charged with stuff. Who else do we got? Kraken got suspended ACH transfers. Kwon got arrested. Coinbase got a Wells notice. Like, what is going on?
This is like the meme with like the Oprah giving cars away to everybody. Everybody can get some. You go on a Wells notice, I will serve you. That's what the SEC is saying, man. Anybody can get it. Yeah, this feels like feels right. I don't know the details, but it feels like that Operation Choke Point 2.0, where there's a concerted effort to go after crypto actors, and this is happening in the midst of what a lot of people believe is a massive liquidity crisis. I'm sure you guys heard about like the Balaji argument that there's U.S. hyperinflation around the corner and BTC is going to go to 1 million. So I think the context during which this is happening is interesting.
Jess, the boomers are cornered. They don't know what to do.
Yeah, and actually a Wells notice is not necessarily an enforcement action. A Wells notice is a intention to potentially bring an enforcement action. So even in the Coinbase example, they will go through a discovery process that could take a year. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, but it could take a while, and then they would go to court and debate these things in court. Ripple has gone through this for the last like 2 years. Before that, there was a project called Kin that went through that and ended up getting sued for doing a securities offering, but yeah, I mean, this has happened in crypto for the last 6 years now, and it'll be interesting to see. But Coinbase has the resources to bring in the high-powered lawyers and to properly kind of go toe to toe. So
Ben Armstrong and a couple of other board members have been unloading shares. Like right before they revealed the whole thing with the Wells notice, they unloaded shares a couple of days before. Ben Armstrong unloaded like $3 million worth of shares, and he got them. He pretty much just exercised some sort of option and got them at $0. So it was kind of weird, like how him and somebody else unloaded all those shares, and then they announced the Wells notice.
I didn't see that. Do you have anything pointing to that? I didn't see it.
I saw it on a Meet Kevin video last night. He was talking about it.
No, I did hear Coinbase did have a space yesterday. It's on their page, and their stance is that they were in talks with the SEC. They thought everything was going cool, and then boom, out of nowhere, they got this Wells notice. And I think it was Mike Dudas that made a great point. So if the SEC approved them to go public, 2 years ago, what was it, in 2021? What has changed? If they disclosed everything that they were doing now, like what changed? And then my hot take about Coinbase, and DeFi Daniel's not here, so maybe he won't attack me for this, but now Coinbase wants everybody to stand behind them. Where was Coinbase when the XRP community wanted them to stand behind them? So that's my hot take, and maybe Death wants to chime in on that.
I just agree. I think it's a good point. Because it's in the consideration of the Ripple versus SEC case, it's too late. In the sense of anybody providing evidence that would have supplied Ripple's side.
Can I please chime in on that, Jess?
Sure.
It's so bad with Coinbase and XRP that the SEC told them that because they had them listed, they weren't in trouble because they didn't know, or whatever the case was, they didn't even have to delist XRP. That's how bad it is with Coinbase.
In my take on it, even listening in yesterday, it's just, to me, it's that he feels betrayed. Like it's just a huge betrayal from what I gathered from it. It's like, we've done everything you wanted us to do. We've tried to, kind of, I don't know, for lack of a better word, kiss your ass and give you what you need. And now you basically backhanded us. That's kind of how it looks.
Yeah, and if the enforcement action is against Justin Tron and it comes out that Tron was a security, I mean that's they could say that Coinbase has facilitated the trading of Tron.
Yeah, it's interesting that they're going after. Well, not interesting. I mean, Justin's son has he has his history, but then what I hadn't known is that he had paid all these celebrities to promote BTT or TRX, Lindsay Lohan. So once I saw Soldier Boy, I was like, okay, like this, whatever Soldier Boy shows is like Jake Paul, Neo, Akon, Michelle Mason. I don't know who that is. Somebody was like, that's the only person I know on that list. I don't know who Michelle Mason is.
So one of them, and I think it's Michelle Mason, was releasing NFT tokens, and apparently they were doing some really big sales. I think it was Michelle Mason.
Who is she?
I think she's a singer or a rapper. I have no idea, but that's something I heard a while ago. Like I stayed away from Tron because the only thing keeping that blockchain going is some tokens on it that are getting released. That's it. People are collecting some sort of token on it.
I do have a question on that because every time we talk about a chain, there's always someone that pops up and defends the chain, right? If we talk about Cardano, we'll have some ADA boys defending the chain. Talk about Solana, like any chain except Tron. Tron feels like this ghost chain. I never hear anyone say, "Oh, I love Tron." Is anyone in the room that can like talk about
Let's
Tron?
request if you are a Tron maxi.
You know,
It
All
doesn't.
things requesting.
it was the EOS days. You know,
It doesn't even make sense what goes on with Tron, like that entire thing, because he bought BTT and he bought Holo and he bought some other stuff, and none of it makes sense. Like nothing.
He put an offer to buy Credit Suisse. I'm like, yo, they're not gonna sell a global bank to you for 1.5 billion, bro. Like,
Don't you feel like though he offers to buy everybody and it just never goes through?
That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, it's good hype for him. It's good publicity, right? It makes headlines. So for him, it's like it's a promotional thing, I think, more than anything.
Emily, I saw you came up. Are you a BTT TRX ecosystem maxi?
No, but there's a lot of crossover with TRX and like Binance. And I used to do a lot in Binance. So it's almost like tangential. And Justin Sun was always like kind of on the corner of the news feed and like the weird shit that he was doing. I'm just kind of surprised he's still around, to be perfectly honest.
him and CZ are very good friends.
Yeah, but the amount of money they have, where's he gonna go?
Dubai. Apparently, that's where everybody is trying to go to. That's where Kwon was trying to go to.
How's the weather over there?
Hot, isn't it?
Very dry.
Well, apparently it's not a super safe place to hang out, huh? Like, Kwon.
Well, I've actually talked to somebody from Dubai who was actually from
on his
there.
way to Dubai.
They don't like. They don't typically like Americans, or in general, they think of them like as like whatever, like second class citizens. But yeah, you can go to Dubai.
I mean, you can go there. It's a really bad place to be gay if that, happens to be something about yourself.
I happen not to be gay, so I'm not worried about that.
All right.
I mean, that's nice.
Okay, that's interesting conversation right there.
How did we get here? But yeah, Dubai is hot, but Dubai is very crypto friendly. So compared to the US, pretty soon we're going to probably be criminals.
Can I just say, not like I'm saying it's something wrong with that.
Oh, do you not hear me talking, Nada?
I'm sorry, I just want to clarify that I don't want to be like a bigot or something. I don't want to like be seen as a bigot. So.
That's why we moved on from that conversation.
Yeah,
all right, thank you.
we moved
all
on.
right, thank you.
What's up, Emily?
Yeah, I think it's a little less cut and dry with how the US feels about crypto. I haven't read like an actual news source of it, but the rumor this morning is that the NASDAQ is going to start a crypto custody service. So that seems a little counterintuitive.
Wait, you said the NASDAQ is going to do a crypto custody service? Like, what do you? Like...
Yeah, hold on. I'll pin it up. One sec.
Okay, because I know we got PolySign, and then we got who else does custody? I guess what's the other company that Sadaf was talking yesterday? Fuck, what the hell was it? Salesforce. They're gonna do shit like that too. And what if Iron Mountain does that too? So everybody's gonna be custodying your stuff,
Yeah, so I did pin up a tweet. I just saw a little blurb about it. But if you find any more detail, feel free to share it. But yeah, it does look like the NASDAQ is going to offer Bitcoin custody by Q2 of 2023, which is very confusing to everything that's been going on, right? So you hate crypto, but now you want to custody our crypto. So which one is it? No, I think they want our crypto.
Yeah.
It's my perspective. Go ahead, Emily.
I mean, they've always wanted our crypto. The OTC desks at places like Coinbase have always been backlogged for the volume of crypto that people are trying to buy, not on an open exchange. Like the demand for Bitcoin and ETH specifically has always been astronomical. It's just a matter of finding those large amounts for someone to be able to buy through a brokered transaction that's not on like a basically like a public service where people pay large fees, right? If you go buy $50 million of an asset, you're not going to do it on an open exchange. You literally can't. They don't have enough for that. So they stop trades like that from going through. You have to go through the back door, and like they can't meet the demand. Like the order book on that stuff is just epically long. Like there's no secret that and that the government agencies have been collecting crypto for a long time. They seize it in raids, right? They have like a large amount of it. There's no way that they don't have staking nodes and they don't have an agency within them that has like a really good understanding of crypto. Disseminating that information is a lot more challenging, but they absolutely have a significant amount of it. It makes sense for them to have tighter controls on how that works. But, the NASDAQ is an interesting move considering what the SEC has been saying all along and, or for a while now, especially with how hard Coinbase has tried to work with them. I think they just want it on their own terms and they don't want it to come from the bottom. They want it to be top down, and that's just never going to work with crypto. But the thing about something like ETH is that, while there's a lot of money in it, some of these major corporations could pretty easily come in and get, 51% of the validator nodes and do whatever the fuck they felt like.
Maybe they want to get their hands on your Bitcoin just as the banks want to get their hands on your deposits to do with it what they want.
I think they absolutely do. I think you're right with that one, right? Like if that's where they know they can make their money doing their own lending and trading and basically counterfeiting, then that's what they can recreate if they have a custody service. And then we have the government is FTX.
Yeah, real quick, I think it's important when we say they to be very specific, right? Because we don't want to paint a picture that there's like some kind of like alignment across the government and the government act as
There
what
is.
an
No, just
entity, right?
kidding.
Like I think if we say they, right,
Yeah, there's no
it
alignment.
looks that way, but when you actually mention, as you say, Emily, the SEC, right? The SEC is not the CFTC, and the CFTC, as far as I'm concerned, right, last time I checked, they did say that both Bitcoin and Ethereum are commodities, and they treat them as such, right? So they have a actual legal responsibility when they make those announcements and treat those assets as commodities. What the SEC is doing, to JD's point, first, it's a Wells notice, not necessarily like an actual case that they're building. And what Gary Gensler is doing a lot is he's saying a lot of things, but he's not doing much. He's actually, in my way, in my opinion, he's scaring the market into doing what he's not doing, which is rulemaking. He's not providing any clarity at all. And so I think what's interesting is we'll see next coming month whether the Fed, for example, is in alignment with the SEC, because obviously Fed now is being implemented and released. The Swiss system is, I think, enabling CBDC cross border transfers. So I think we'll start to see those three other agencies, whether they're in alignment with each other or whether there's like some turf wars. And then when we add the financial institutions like the financial banks or hedge funds, again, some might align with the CFTC, some might align with the SEC. But I think when we look at TradFi and government, there's a lot of misalignment. So there might be some clash in the coming months, and it'd be interesting to see who's on which side.
Yeah, I definitely think you're right on that one. And kind of the scare tactics that people like to run around in spaces and be like, oh, the government's gonna have a CBDC. Like they already have a CBDC. They're just not using blockchain. How do you think they're making all these loans to banks and banks are able to turn around and like basically counterfeit money and loan it out to people when they don't have the deposits to back it? And then they choose to shut down some random bank and turn over $300 billion. Like it's pretty wild to see how these things are coming to fruition if you're paying attention, and it's the same problems that they've had in the past. It's just a different technology layer that they haven't fully wrapped their heads around yet or like gotten on the same page with. So it's I think there's an opportunity here, but they're kind of showing their hand with not understanding, the point or why or how staking works. Like that's a weird fight to fight if you think about it.
Yeah, there was Josh, I'll go to you right next and then to the hands, but there was that article where they were saying, oh, that Bitcoin hasn't decided to transition to POS yet. It's like whoever, and that's like what the people in Congress were reading. It's like they have no clue what's going on. Go ahead, JD, and then we'll go to the rest of the hands.
Yeah, so I actually recommend people check out the White House, Biden's White House report that came out this week. It actually has a very extensive section on crypto and how they think about it. And one of the really first paragraphs is that crypto is an interesting technology, and the proponents of it think it will, do great things. However, and big however, crypto doesn't follow hundreds of years of established financial understanding and best practices. And it's like, honestly, it's just so cringe at this point because this whole report is just an opinion piece of that administration on the digital asset space. There's not really much data or critical thought or polling of people's opinions across the political spectrum or even just average people, to create that opinion. One thing I want to say on the NASDAQ real quick, like NASDAQ's big, but Fidelity secretly enabled Bitcoin purchase, I think maybe Bitcoin and ETH, but Bitcoin purchases within 300 million user accounts, I believe, or maybe 30 million user accounts of Fidelity's clients. And Fidelity is a very large wealth manager and has a lot of retail users in their brokerage. So they'll now be able to add Bitcoin exposure to their 401k or whatnot. So I think even that is that's massive. Like the NASDAQ is more of an institutional level custody. And there was other, 6 months ago, JP Morgan said, hey, we're going to accept Bitcoin as collateral for loans. And what's exciting about that is, if you were, let's say you're in another country around the world, and you said, hey, I have this collateral for a loan at JP Morgan in New York, and JP Morgan looks at your collateral and is like, well, we don't know that jurisdiction legal, or we know it, but we don't trust it. And, we don't know if your property is really worth that. When someone comes to them with Bitcoin as collateral, they understand it. There's a liquid market for it. It's on a uniform protocol across other people who also have Bitcoin as collateral. So I think that's like a really big deal. And I think that's what the NASDAQ's going to go after is kind of holding that collateral. I'll go to MetaMan, or I think Active RN, you might have had your hand up first.
I think so. Thank you. Thanks for bringing me up, Jess. I think good morning. I think Wag Me Dow, whatever you want me to call you today, was touching on what I came up to say, but not honing in on it directly. But anyways, just the timing with NASDAQ saying this today and Coinbase thing yesterday. I just think it's the timing over the past month with everything that's happening has been very, very interesting. So that was the only point I was going to make, that the timing is interesting. Is NASDAQ going to be the replacement for Coinbase? Is that why? Like, I don't know. It's very fishy.
But I agree with both of you, and especially JD, what you mentioned about Fidelity. That was last week, NASDAQ this week, and they weren't really, it wasn't really like on the mainstream news. So they're quietly rolling out all these custodial services while trying to shut down all the crypto banks or, interactions with banks and crypto. So great point, and thank you for bringing that up. Go ahead, Meta, and then Deck.
Yeah, that's exactly what I think Active was saying, that the Nasdaq is going. I'm thinking they're going to tokenize stocks anyways and put it on a blockchain, and hopefully it's XRP. And I also heard XRPL, but I also heard something about like European central banks. Catherine Lagarde said that they will never ever use Bitcoin in their banks. There's a
Wait.
video on it.
That reminds me, I just wanted to say JP Morgan is doing what with Bitcoin? Fuck him. He literally says Bitcoin is a piece of shit every other week. And he's using it for, he'll let
No,
people use it for
yeah,
collateral.
it was Catherine Lagarde, not I mean, I don't know what happened here. But Catherine Lagarde said that they'll never. She's the president of, I guess, what is it, the European Central Banks. So I mean, that's a lot of countries, and they're never. I mean, she's in charge of it. So as long as she's in charge, they're never going to use Bitcoin as backup.
You know what? I think one thing that we need to learn from all this is don't listen to what they say, watch what they do. Because, yeah, they'll say, look at what they're saying.
Yeah,
Oh, crypto
exactly.
is a scam, Bitcoin is a scam, and look at what they're doing. So they're going to say what they want to say so that we don't get in or so forth. But my recommendation is watch what they're doing, not what they're
Yeah, I'm
saying.
trying to get on my like fourth Bitcoin. So
And to confirm what I mentioned with JP Morgan there is on May 26, 2022, so this is just under a year ago, they mentioned that they would look at Bitcoin to be used as collateral for loans, to just to clarify. But yeah, Jamie Dimon has come out and said very bad things about Bitcoin, of course.
Emily, what's up?
Yeah, I think you guys are nailing it. Like this is truly a sleight of hand, where it's a magician, right? Trying to distract you with the show. Meanwhile, they slip a whole bunch of stuff out from under their sleeve, and all of a sudden something magically appears. Like that's exactly what's going on right now. And I think it's a big lot of showmanship where they're playing dumb. They're trying to make people think that they don't understand what's going on, and they're gonna come out and it's absolutely gonna like wreck everything that we know and understand about the government's the government's use of crypto and like what they plan to do with it, from like fiduciary policy and how it's gonna affect us all. And like, it's always a double-edged sword with technology and with finance and with transparency, right? Like, oh, I have all this crypto, and then suddenly it's counted into your, student loan repayments, or like, into your tax basis for your wealth every single year, or whatever that is. But ultimately, as long as you're wealthy, you're probably in a good position. Being poor with a lot of crypto sounds like a bad position to be in.
Well, I hope we're not
I
poor
decided to
here.
be rich, so
Um,
I got it down.
good for you.
I'm
Good for
poor.
you. But
I'm
yeah,
poor.
I
I'll
mean,
admit
Well,
it.
you got a poor mindset then. You got to be rich.
regardless, at the end of the day, like I'm still bullish on Bitcoin and on crypto long term. Just a quick random story. I know I shared it with you guys, with some of you guys, but do you guys know? So I went to the ATM machine. This is just to shit on banks for a minute. So I went to the ATM to take out some cash. Yeah, I had to take out some cash. To the person that was doing work wanted cash. Blah blah blah. So I go take out cash, and when the money comes out, it typically clamps it. So something was wrong with the ATM machine. I went to go grab the money. The money fell back inside the ATM machine. All right. So I don't
It
know
says
what
no, no,
happens.
no.
That's never happened
It's
to
those
me.
bootleg ATMs in
So I
Miami.
go
They
I'm
inside
said
the
sorry.
just
bank.
kidding.
No, there's like a hand
I
that
go
grabs it.
inside the bank. I go inside the bank and I'm like, here's what happened. And they're like, sorry, we can't help you. You got to call the number on the machine. So basically, I just had to call the number on the machine, file a claim, go back to another ATM and take out money. Like, thankfully, I had the funds that I could take it out and wait 14 days. But imagine somebody that doesn't have the funds, and it just like emphasize how much banks are a scam. The guy even gave me an attitude, like, we can't help you. Like, I can't do anything for you. Go call the number. I'm like,
You're like, you just
what the
stole my
fuck?
damn
Hold,
money. What?
hold up, Jess. So they made you call the number on the machine?
Yes. And then I have to call
Hold
the
up.
number, give them the ATM ID, and then file a claim, like a regular claim with the bank.
This sounds like
Stop
Well,
Wells
it.
that's
Fargo
why you got to
or
be
Bank of
friends with
America.
the
Either
banksters.
or.
I'm always friends with them.
Like no,
Meta, can you
this
let
has
other
to be
people
Wells
talk?
Fargo.
Yeah, I'm out, guys. Peace.
Go ahead, Emily.
Dude, that happened to me when I was like fresh out of college and I had overdrawn my account and I had like some cash in my wallet. So I went to deposit cash to make my bank, balance. And the machine crashed in the middle of my deposit, but it like ate my money. And it was still when they would charge you every single day for being overdrawn. And I was like, you just like took all my money and you have T+2 settlement and I have to pay for 2 extra days of being overdrawn when I know my rent is gonna hit. So I'm gonna, bounce my check on top of all of these things because like this is that, right amount of money that I need in there to make all these things fit together. And they're like, well, I don't know, sorry, that sucks to be you. Like the general culture of banks, they did this to themselves is what it comes down to. Like you cannot be that predatory for that long and expect to continuously have something to consume. Like if you overfish the ocean, there's no fish left. Like this is very much like a self-fulfilling prophecy that they've just continuously fed for decades.
Y'all, maybe this is why I did not fit in the banking world and I made the switch over to where I ended up. But honestly, like people would come in to see me. I was obviously the manager when things like this would happen, and I'd move heaven and earth to get their money. I mean, that's important to people. That's horrible. I can't even believe that they sent you back out and made you call the phone number on there. Like they should have handled that. I am shook by that. That's fucking
Yeah, and it
ridiculous.
seemed like it was something that happened all the time because he was just like so nonchalant about it. Like, yeah, just call the number and so forth. Go
Was
ahead,
it
Dad,
like
and then JD.
Yeah, just I think we're going to see a lot of these financial institutions that have over leveraged themselves by utilizing a tool which I think is not a bad tool, right? The fractional reserve ability, but have way abused it, and just like you said, have put themselves in positions that they should have not put themselves in to begin with.
One thing on that point, one thing that I've noticed as well, something that happened recently, and I do believe it was with Signature Bank, something that you don't see or that I have not seen in the past. There were four other banks, I believe it was, that stepped up, and they are the ones that pumped deposits into that bank. So it wasn't necessarily the government that came in and, propped up their core deposits. It was four other banks that came in to basically boost them and deposit into their financial institution in order to create that, core deposit that they needed. So that's something that I've never seen. So there's a lot of weird things going on for sure.
Yeah, and back to the stock exchange too. The New York Stock Exchange, if you want to look up the companies they've had in line for a long time, BAKKT backed and T0 are supposed to be like neo stock exchange apps that people will be able to utilize.
Great point. Go ahead, JD.
So I got some comments on the banking system in the US. So in Canada, for instance, there's 5 major banks, and we've kind of concentrated all the banking clients into these 5 banks. And from the global perspective, RBC, which is our largest, is one of the top, I think, 6 banks in the world. So we've concentrated into one that is very large and some others that are very large. They make great profits. They do quite well. And, people could argue if that's a great system or not. I do know that in 2008, specifically, the Canadian banking system was the strongest in the world. We had no issues. There was never any problems with our property market. Today, going into this crisis, our property market has rallied like crazy. Our housing is extremely expensive, and that's the bank's collateral. So it'll be interesting to see how the Canadian banks fare this time around. And I think there's a case to be, said with the Canadian system versus the U.S. system. I think there's different, benefits and differences between the two. I don't know which one's better, but they are interesting. So if you ever have interest, go check out how the Canadian system works. But yeah, I mean, banking in the US has a long tail of regionals, and I think what's good with the regionals is they serve different parts of the economy. So for like Silicon Valley specifically, they were focused on startups and entrepreneurs and providing credit where other banks, it wouldn't fit their risk profile. And so I think there's a case to be made for have these different banks that serve these different needs. Although, do you need 6 or 7 different branches in a town of 30,000 people per square kilometer. No, you don't need that many banking institutions to serve that few of a population, and it becomes an overhead. But this crisis is something definitely to keep an eye on. And I think it's important that people also manage their risk as well. Like the market has been rallying like crazy, and to just take some chips off the table and manage your risk. And the last thing I want to say real quick is, like, we talk about banking in this light of North America, but there's 8 billion people in the world, and most of those people either don't have a bank at all, or they don't have any financial services that they have access to. And so crypto for those people are a really great tool to hold their savings and their wealth. You look in Turkey, they have 50-60% inflation on the lira. Other nations around the world have strict capital controls in place. And crypto, it doesn't really care which country you come from. It's a open system that anyone on the internet can use, which is a great thing for humanity. So, keeping in context that not everyone lives in North America and has even financial services at all.
Yeah, I agree. And I think sometimes, even we think, me as living in the US, we think of things too much from a US perspective. And at the end of the day, if the US decides to ban crypto or Bitcoin or whatever the hell they're going to do, it's just going to keep on going without us. So I'll have to find whether I'm going to go to Dubai or Bahamas, definitely somewhere warm, but it's going to keep going regardless of what our government decides to do here. But I do see we have a new speaker up. So Danny, welcome. I know you were having some issues coming up.
Yes, I have. It's probably my phone. Yeah, in banking in Canada, a lot of ATMs were removed also as well, and I had my main branch move in 3 separate locations in less than a year and a half. But I would like to just slightly go back to Coinbase and SEC. Well, the decision in Ripple case is likely to inform a litigation between Coinbase and the SEC. Any court battle involving Coinbase is likely to involve a wider range of issues and assets. So that could be complicated for them at that way. And the scenario in February with Kraken discontinuing its stacking and having a $30 million fee, that hit really hard.
Yeah, and that was a big blow to Kraken. And and again, it goes back to Gensler enforcing by regulation. And I don't want to jinx it, but I mentioned this earlier, and disclaimer, I am a partner with Binance US. But after seeing the SEC coming down with charges on all these exchanges, it's been kind of weird that they haven't, knock on wood, mentioned Binance. Just interesting. Could it be because they're in the middle of this Voyager buyout and they don't want to screw that up? Who knows? I don't know. Go ahead, Danny.
Well, they might go to. They're probably going to say it's selling unlicensed investment contracts, and that's going to be a blow to Coinbase and everything else like that. But if they can have a pretty decent, let's say, defense to it, I think they can kind of be okay at that point.
Don't you think the best defense is the fact that the SEC literally signed off on pages and pages and pages and pages and pages of everything that Coinbase is doing? They literally approved them to do what they're doing now.
Yes, and that could backfire, and that could be a very good defense for them.
I think that's going to be their best defense. Go ahead, sorry.
No, yeah. And Johnny, I saw you came up. Do you have any comments or insights on this? Johnny's probably deep into ChatGPT 4 right now, so we'll come back to him.
So when I was in 2017, I was part of the Kin ecosystem because it was an ICO by Kick Messenger, and it was really the first to get sued by the SEC, and they actually published the Wells notice, which again, a Wells notice is just the intention to bring an enforcement action. And having lived in that community, and the XRP community after understands this well, is you are glued to these court hearings. I mean, there is, I think, 40 or 50 people that can call in to a court hearing in the state of New York and listen, and those phones were swamped, so much so that the judge had to say, can everyone get off the phone because like we can't hear the lawyers from or whatever, the phone line is like jammed up because all these different crypto investors were wanting to know what's going to happen to Ken, what's going to happen to Ken. And it was a whole experience. And during that process, the price of Kin was down 97%. And so it doesn't matter if, there's a bunch of consumer apps and retail people using this new currency. And I always thought it was a really great thing for mobile apps to monetize their apps. I was like, this is great. At the end of the day, when you have these regulatory kind of clouds over a project, it can be very damaging to the ecosystem, both from adoption, from new developers wanting to do things with it, to people wanting to integrate, to just the price and the value of the ecosystem. So, oftentimes it's really best to kind of stay clear of these things because you don't know how they're going to turn out. We still don't know what's going to happen with Ripple at this point. I do wish them well because I want to see kind of that check and balance to the rules, but yeah, sometimes it's best to kind of just stay clear of these types of cases, especially Coinbase is a publicly traded company. So if you own Coin in New York, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of things that could affect that share price, whether you believe Coinbase is right or wrong.
Yeah, and I think as we see more regulation in the U.S., we're also going to see other countries trying to bait us. And by that I mean I just put a tweet on top about El Salvador. So now they're eliminating income and capital gains tax on technology innovation. So I think we're going to start to see that from other countries and saying, hey, like, come over here. We won't charge you taxes. Come build over here. So, yeah, I think we need to start exploring different options.
Jess, you have to move to Brazil. Brazil's central bank is crypto friendly. They made Bitcoin legal tender recently, and connected to BRICS. The Brazilian government is working with Argentina to create a currency. Now, it's not necessarily a cryptocurrency, but the interesting part is because the part of BRICS, there's a lot of ties to the new development bank of BRICS, and they have currency swap between different central banks. And it just makes sense, right? If you think about it from the point of view of each country joining the BRICS and having to open currency swap with each central bank, at some point they'll create a network. And when you start to think what kind of network they need to build, it seems very likely that it would go the direction of a cryptocurrency. And in case of Brazil, Argentina, they're looking for that currency to be like the default currency for the whole of Latin America. So yeah, El Salvador's doing some great things. Brazil doing some great things. Even in Colombia, there was a recent announcement that Binance actually enables credit card against your Binance account. So a lot of really cool things happening in Latin America. Sunny beach, great food, and great people.
Yeah, one thing that I did see, Balaji, when he was tweeting, and we'll talk about his $1 million bet in a minute, but pretty much saying that the only safe states in the U.S. are Florida and Texas. And then he said, Salvador and UAE to go abroad. So maybe I'm safe here in Florida. I know, the governor has came out to say that, they would protect that, but you never know. You never know. Of course, New York is not on that list. New York is like the worst place to own crypto. They should just branch out already.
Nico,
We
when are
are
you
the
moving?
financial hub.
What'd you say, Dad?
Nico, when are you moving to Florida?
I'm not moving to Florida, bro. Dude, I already told you, you're going to meet me in the Mediterranean. Are you out of your mind? I lived in Florida for a little while. Why would I stick to all of this? I could keep the best of both worlds. I could be a New Yorker and live in the Mediterranean as well. Like, I ain't going to sit here and take away the New York status. I'm sorry.
Speaking of New York and Miami, the New York and Miami city coins got delisted off OK Exchange, citing low liquidity and price manipulation. So I don't know if you guys remember these city coins that sparked up. They were supposed to save Miami. Now they're saying it's a rug, basically, and it's trying to get delisted off exchanges. So RIP city coin.
You know, I believe Stacks was the one who released those.
Yes, it was. They are a Stacks shitcoin, I guess the Bitcoiners would call it.
I'm a little
Wait,
shocked. I mean, I shouldn't be shocked, but that was a huge project. I mean, and I feel like because it was mined, they were mined coins, so it's weird.
wait, there was a New York coin.
Yep, there
Yes.
is a New
Yeah,
Yeah.
York.
Where the hell was I?
it was New York City.
Where was I for? I live in New York City, bro. Like, where was I for
It,
this?
You
it was a
probably
it,
couldn't buy it. It's a New York City coin, but
They
you
were
can't
supposed to
buy it.
distribute it to New York residents, I thought. I don't know.
I didn't get any. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
it was a small test.
It was bad finance, is what it was.
Yeah, so we'll see. And that looks like it's gonna be a rug, or we'll see what happens with that. I don't know. But yeah, on just on the Bitcoin topic, not sure if you guys heard about Balaji and his $1 million bet that Bitcoin will go to $1 million in 90 days. But based from what I heard him say, it seems like it's more just a publicity thing to draw attention. It's not like Bitcoin. He's expecting Bitcoin to reach $1 million in 90 days. If it did, shit, let's fucking go. But I don't think it is.
Yeah, he had a really interesting episode or interview on Bankless. So I think his case, right, the general understanding that I have of it is that he's not necessarily making a bet on crypto, but mostly on U.S. inflation, right? And basically, he's extrapolating what happened to Silicon Valley Bank, where basically they're just sitting on a lot of treasuries that no longer have uh, good value, so they're unrealized losses. And he's saying that there's a lot of American banks, like 300 of them, they're in a similar position. And that's not necessarily due to bad management necessarily. It's also due to the monetary policy changing really fast. I mean, mainly like the Fed raising the rate quickly. And he's saying that you can extrapolate that to banks around the world because, as we know, the dollar is the world reserve. And a lot of banks are sitting on bonds and mortgages or mortgage-backed debt securities that have unrealized losses or no longer the value that they used to have. So he fast forward and basically says that the world is potentially moving away from being US dollar denominated. But I think to your point, Jess, it was more like a marketing ploy to say this is happening, but it's probably not going to happen within 90 days. Something that's going to happen maybe in the next 2-3 years, right? Not necessarily that the dollar is going down or hyperinflation, but that the world is de-dollarizing. And then as people look for a safer asset, they might look at crypto. So it's more nuanced than his announcement that was a bit more dramatic.
And with the SVB situation, they really were realized losses because they had to cash those bad boys out. And how that works is to simplify it, you've got, let's say, $100 treasury bond, and you were getting the 2%. Now they're paying 5. So you've got to cash that in early because you've had a run and people want their money. So they hit that loss. So where the difference of the 3% is, they're getting $97 or less instead of the 100 that they put in. So they did have to realize that loss. So that's what happened to them. And honestly, with that bank in particular, I consider them more of like a commercial bank and almost like a private bank for big commercial type, the startups, the clients that they had or the clientele. But yeah, they definitely realized those losses for sure.
Yeah, and actually, Tammy, that was a great explanation. And I think one other point I'll make on it is that if they hold those securities to maturity, they will get their money back. But the problem is what Tammy was mentioning is that everyone wanted their money out of the bank, and it caused a classic bank run, and that forced them to sell those securities earlier into a market where those securities are yielding 1, 2, 3%, but the risk-free rate from the government is 5% as of yesterday. So that's what caused those to be sold at 70, 80 cents on the dollar or whatever. The other, one other thing on Bellagio's $1 million bet, which I think is kind of ridiculous, to be honest. And I love crypto, of course, but this type of printing money or stimulus that we're seeing, it's not the same as it was in 2020, where those checks were given directly to consumers and people in the economy. I don't think it's going to create the same type of inflation that we saw when COVID hit, where everyone was directly getting money into their bank account. This money is being printed simply just to make sure deposits are whole and to plug a big, collateral issue in the system. So a little more nuanced than what we saw in 2020.
Yeah, it's been interesting to see from the Bitcoin community how they just like disabandoned Michael Saylor, and now the number one Bitcoin influencer is Balaji. I mean, Daniel, you're a BTC maxi now. How do you feel? And just really quick, I do feel that having Balaji, I don't know if I'm saying his name right, out in the forefront instead of Michael Saylor is a good thing, because Michael Saylor says some shit that's like way out there when he starts talking about, all his weird shit that he talks about. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Daniel.
you gotta understand that Michael Saylor, he's a visionary, right? So his mind may not be at the right place, but his heart is at the right place. And as far as the newbies coming in and pushing the Bitcoin price to $1 million in 90 days, I'm gonna say they are standing on the shoulder of giants. So that's all I'm gonna say. So pretty quickly to dismiss our savior, Michael Saylor, and I'm not gonna take that from you.
There's no second best influencer. So,
I hope that Vitalik does not hear you talking DeFi, because he will be so
No,
hurt
no,
to hear the way that you're talking about
it's
Bitcoin.
different
It's
things,
recorded.
Tammy. He's got the proof of schlong. He showed us that the other day. So he's okay in our books. He's still good. He's got the proof of schlong. It's yeah.
yeah, how about
And
that rumor that he was dating Giselle? Like, somebody sent me that rumor. I'm like, that can't be true. So apparently there was a rumor he was dating, or he was holding hands with Tom Brady's ex-wife. But yeah,
Stop.
Did you
like I
say
said, he
proof of
likes
schlong? That's all I heard was proof of schlong.
That's correct. Yeah,
she likes
POS, right? That's the yeah. So I better stop there.
yeah, it's still too early. Go ahead, Danny.
Okay, I have to ask. So, was it a deep fake when Sater was just talking about Bitcoin, someone semi losing it and everything, and also a 200, what was it, 290 some million loss on Sailor's side? Ooch.
That's the normal him. That's that
That was him on the video?
I think so.
Oh, sorry, on the audio? Oh my God.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
was
hey,
not a
Sailor was quite I love what he did. He was buying it at 10K, but he really risked his entire company and his shareholders on that bet quite irresponsibly in many ways. I don't know how he was allowed to lever up that much, because he was issuing paper debt for Bitcoin, and his average price is like 30K or something like that. But when Bitcoin was trading at 18, 19K, he could have had a huge margin call. And it could have really wrecked the price of the ecosystem, because who was going to buy it at 18K? The order books are thin, and this guy might be a forced seller all of a sudden. Like, that could have drove us down even further into an absolute spiral. At the same time, FTX is blowing up. Genesis is messing up. Grayscale is not backed 1-to-1. We don't know what's going on. Like, it was a really risky time for the ecosystem. And Michael Saylor, love him to death, but what he did with his company and his treasury and his shareholders, I think, was slightly on the irresponsible side.
Don't get me wrong. He seems like a really down to earth type of guy.
Oh yeah,
Sometimes
absolutely.
eccentric also.
Super down to earth. He really sounds that way.
I think he just went like hyper parabolic with his mentality of Bitcoin, and he hasn't stopped yet.
This is what happened when you embrace maximalism, right? Like reason is thrown out the window, and it's all about ideology, and nothing is second. Like there is no second best, as it says, right? I think to your point, JD, it was irresponsible. Probably the board director was looking at him pretty, because I think that's why he got demoted, right? Like he was a CEO, and then he became president, but really he wasn't making everyday decisions. So I think he got pinned down for that.
Oh, I have breaking news. Biden is in Canada meeting with Trudeau.
Boo.
Sorry, JD.
No, look, man, I stay out of politics for the most part, and I know Justin is not the favorite around the world, but I also think as someone who lives here, it's a lot of media fervor and commenting more than reality. But you know, that's that.
Yeah.
Sorry, Biden is. They're both in their own reality. My apologies.
Oh, no worries. Go ahead, Daniel.
Okay.
Danny.
What's the second best? There is no second best. There is no second best crypto asset. There's a crypto asset. It's called Bitcoin, right? Right? There is no second best, okay?
Hilarious.
Love it.
Was that?
Love it.
Oh my God.
Yes, that's the classic. There's no second best. Well, now he's the number 2 influencer for Bitcoin, so he got booted off by Balaji. But speaking of Bitcoin, oh shit! Oh, Magic Eden launched an NFT platform for Bitcoin ordinals. DGods is the highest traded inscription on Bitcoin network. And also, I know I mentioned this in one of the other spaces, DGods did lose their BTC DGods by sending their BTC to Binance. So if you buy some Bitcoin on Binance, you might find the stat that has a BTC DGod in it.
When
That is
Binance
really
ordinals.
sad.
When Binance ordinals.
What?
When Binance ordinals.
But yeah, what do you guys thoughts about Magic Eden launching a marketplace for Bitcoin ordinals? Like, doesn't seem like these things are gonna go away. Like me, I see a thumbs down. What are your thoughts?
I think what you just said it all right. You send the wrong Bitcoin and your ordinal is gone. It would be great if they had a standard, if they actually sat together and say, well, how do we want to use non-fungible asset on chain? So obviously, I applaud those efforts to actually build anything on Bitcoin to actually add utility, but they got to think long term. And if you don't have a blueprint to how those things are going to work, you're going to run into exactly those issues you just mentioned, Jess. So good luck, but they're going to keep running into those issues.
I wonder, I didn't look into it because I don't have too much positive to say about Magic Eden, but I wonder what their fee is. It's all about money for them. It's a cash grab. I just wonder what their fee is.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. It's just good to see at least people are building around it, and hopefully it does get better that, you don't send your Bitcoin and lose your freaking ordinal, because that's like max pain. It's worse than not being able to mint one. But yeah, we'll see what happens with that.
Can I ask you really quick, do you think Binance will dip into ordinals?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think their focus has been as much on NFT. So for me to see them making that ordinals leap right now, I probably don't see it. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I think it's cool that Magic Eden took that step. And we'll see what happens. Does anybody have a Bitcoin ordinals or an inscription on the stage? You have one, JD?
No. I'm a punk maxi, but I also, I don't know if Bitcoin should really be building these DeFi type NFT applications, if those things should even be built on Bitcoin. It's just, I don't think the user experience is there. Bitcoin's really good at being, digital gold and being a stable asset. So yeah, I
Well, I'm
love
gonna
seeing the
push back on
experimentation,
that.
but
I'm going to push back on that because
push.
Vitalik never expected NFTs to be a thing, and the Ethereum community.
100%. When Ethereum, look, when I started with Ethereum, it was Mist Wallet 2015, and there was literally the wallet side and a button called contract. And at that time, everyone's like, "Oh, this will disrupt DocuSign." Like you'll be able to put a contract in instead of it being a PDF, it'll be code. And no one imagined then it was like, oh, ICOs, And then 2017 came along. Larva Labs did CryptoPunks. And by the way, the guys that did Larva Labs, they created the Android avatar. So the little green Android dude, they created that aesthetic. And so they're like really deep Google Labs guys. So CryptoPunks and that early smart contract work was done by them.
Yeah, I think what
Yeah, and I
he
guess
said,
my
Jess.
point was,
Oh, sorry.
what did I say?
No, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I guess my point was just that, like, people, a lot of things were built on ETH that, the founders probably don't agree with. I'm sure they didn't want 20,000 shit coins on there, but this is where we are. Go ahead, Daniel.
No, yeah, what Vitalik said that he didn't think it was going to be that big of a thing, like with the whole NFT in 2021, the NFT boom, he didn't think that was not going to be that big. But JD's right that that was always kind of like one use case that was always there, for people to find and to do, to play with. But yeah, you probably you're thinking about he did say it right on a YouTube video or some kind.
Yeah, he said it.
Yeah.
I mean, we know that he hates the shit coins. He dumped, all the shit coins that they sent him a few weeks ago. I think one of them was like, I forgot which ones it was. I'm not even going to say the names of the tokens. But go ahead, Go ahead, Danny, and then Active. Sorry.
Yep, for ordinals, I think it's the size of, let's say, the NFT you want to implement. I think it's a few kilobytes for a Satoshi, but you can connect them together. But having a Bitcoin, is it roughly, I can't remember if it's a certain amount of megabytes. So the limitation of the size of what you can implement. So you can, yes, add video and certain things like that, but you're highly limited in the size.
Yeah, I think it's 4 megabytes, but they can use IPFS. They can just point to any media on IPFS and just inscribe it in the ordinal.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll go to you right now, Active, but before I forget, during the DGODS, man, apparently there was an issue with the block and there was some type of reorg that happened. Not sure if you guys heard about that, but some funky stuff did happen when they pushed out those DGODs. Go ahead, Active.
I heard that too, but I don't have the details. But a question I posed on Twitter yesterday was, if Bitcoin is a commodity, oh, sorry, that's my dryer. What are Bitcoin NFTs? Are we trying to say Bitcoin NFTs are a commodity? Like that's I'm trying to figure out what class these NFTs fall into. I cannot see Bitcoin NFTs being a commodity, so it's very odd.
Yeah, great point. Daniel, and then Death.
Maybe Death wants to explain that, but I can explain the reorg. And it's something that happens all the time. Like that's just very normal in Bitcoin. I don't know if another chains, but the reorg is
Polygon, it happens a lot.
I think it Polygon happens because of other reasons. But yeah, so the way it works, right? Like all the miners are competing for the next block, and that one who finds it first, for the most of the 99 out of 100, that's gonna be the miner that finds the blocks and communicates it to all the nodes, the miner nodes, and they all accept it. What happened on this one is this was a small miner, and it seems like the block was not communicated. At the same time, another miner found it, and this bigger miner basically communicated to the network. So that became the truth. So that's why you have orphan blocks all the time, right? So you have orphan blocks, meaning that two miners find the same block, and now which one is the truth? Well, the one that communicates and propagates the fastest, that's going to be the truth that everyone's going to pick up. So the other miner, doesn't get the compensation for finding a block. That's why we have confirmations in every block, right? Every blockchain has confirmations. You have to make sure that the block confirms it so many times that way that's the truth, right? And the number of confirmations varies from chain to chain, If it's something like Bitcoin, I think it's like 10 confirmations for most of the changes. For other changes, for other chains, it's like 100 or more, you know. That's what happens. Now, the interesting part about this and the FUD about it is that this happened to be a very important block because this is when they minted the entire collection of DGOTs. So it not only gets you the BTC reward, but also all of the mining, all the fees associated with this inscription. And it was basically a small miner versus a big miner. So the small miner did not get the block, and the big miner got the block. So that's kind of like you start questioning, like, what happened there? But it's just basically maybe coincidence. Who knows? But that's it. Now you have the information. You can draw your own conclusions.
Thank you for the explanation. Death, go ahead.
You know, Active brought up something that was interesting, though. It had me thinking for a little bit because, you know, in the sense of any of these networks, right? All of these, in case of NFTs or these are objects, right, that are being created as layers that exist on top of the actual network itself. In the sense of ordinals, right, or this Bitcoin, you know, there's no object that's necessarily existing that's sitting on top of the network. It's just this somebody who's built an application that is an API plugin layer. You know, I don't know necessarily in this case. It's actually has me thinking right now.
Good. I'm glad that it does. Hopefully we can, you know, continue talking about it because it's yeah. I mean, it's like it'll come up eventually. You know what I mean? So I think we should explore it.
Yeah, because it's like, you know, so to make the argument that okay, so whoever created the ordinals, these NFTs or these images are securities, but they're actually satoshis that exist on the network. They're just you know, pointing to, or there's an API that's basically calculated them that says that this block is this image. I don't know how you make that argument well enough that it's a security or it's a commodity. It's a good one.
It'll be your new rabbit hole.
Yeah, we'll see how that plays out. But enough with the Bitcoin news. Let's talk more about ETH and make DeFi Daniel happy. So did see the announcement. Well, two things coming up. So next week, March 27th, Polygon zkEVM launch. And then today, zkSync launched. What did they opened it up to the public. So has anybody been using any of the has anybody been using zkSync or tried it out already? It does look like the mainnet was released to all users.
I have not used it, but I saw a really good thread yesterday on airdrops. I'm not an airdrop farmer at all, but I saw a really good thread on how to do that for zkSync. So if you guys want to farm some airdrops from them, but I haven't used it.
Yeah, for those who missed out or feel like they missed out on the RB airdrop, that might be the time to jump into zkSync. But very, very excited for zkEVM to be out there. I think, Daniel, you want to say that a few weeks ago that it made sense for Coinbase, for example, to build on just the optimistic rollup as opposed to a zk, due to they don't need high computation. But it opens the floodgate for a whole lot of innovation. I'm really excited about account abstraction. I think that's something that we need in the space to have better wallet experience for average users. And for Polygon, they've bet the bank on zk rollups, right? They got four or five coming up, different project. They had a big announcement. Well, Immutable X had a big announcement, and people thought it was going to be EA Sport or a partnership with like a big gaming industry, but it was actually with Polygon. So Immutable X was working on the Starkware one version of their ZKs, but they're now partnering with Polygon. So that's going to be exciting because when it comes to gaming and Web3, I think those are the two biggest platforms that we have. So them partnering together, I think that's exciting. So yeah, March 27th should be fun. And I'm definitely going to be trying to get on that zkSync airdrop.
Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, I wanted to comment on Polygon real quick. So there's some on-chain activity, and I don't want to FUD Polygon at all, but
Oh, you can FUD here. Don't
I
worry.
want people to know that it looks like the Polygon or Matic, the Treasury has been selling Matic into the market, probably to raise funds for their runway. So just want everyone to just make sure you check the on-chain activity of those Matic transfers because they were not insignificant. They were in the tens of millions of dollars at a tranche. So, does anyone here, like, I'm, not a blockchain wizard, but can anyone, and I do loosely understand the zero knowledge versus optimistic tech, but can someone explain the difference in the tech? Maybe chemists, I think you were chatting to it. I don't even know if you're still here, but yeah. Can someone explain that for people?
Yeah, I'll try to add it. I'm sure DeFi Dan will have a great explanation as well. But I think the main thing is, well, there's two main things, right? One is around verification, and the other was around computation, right? So in most cases, they're building their own EVM altogether, and you can actually do way more in terms of computation. So imagine if you had, right now we have oracles like Chainlink that give you information every so often. Imagine you could have like a constant stream of price data or any data that's verified, signed on chain, drop on you, and it's not expensive, right? There's a 10x in terms of performances of zk rollups versus optimistic rollups, and the thing that also people attach as well value to is the verification process when it comes to optimistic rollups takes 7 days for anybody to contest those transactions. But in the case of the ZKs, they're verified before they roll back onto the mainnet. So you don't have that 7 day windows, right? It's as soon as they roll back onto Ethereum, they're as good as a layer one transaction. So I think those two things alone, and then you can add privacy, which is weird, right? We live in crypto, but we don't have actual privacy. If I know your address and everything that you do, so there's a lot of 10x's that are in ZKs. In my opinion, those three are super important. Verification is faster. Uh, Privacy can be enabled at layer three, and then high computation. I think there's something around. I can't remember the project, but it's around cell or DNA genome decomposability, or there's some high computation exercise that people do in science around genome. I can't remember exactly what it is. You can actually do that on chain with zk's, which is insane.
Yeah, thanks, Dow, for breaking that down. DeFi, I saw you unmuted. Did you want to add something to
Oh,
that?
sorry, no, I didn't realize.
But yeah, and to something else that you mentioned, you mentioned the Immutable and Polygon partnership. And what I did read is that it looks like they're making a dedicated blockchain using zk technology. So that's interesting to see. And yeah, the crypto community didn't take that announcement well because, they felt that it was going to be like a Web2 brand that they were partnering with. And, I am, again, this is an open forum, so I'm going to FUD IMX a little bit, that IMX has a history. Their last huge announcement, partnership with GameStop, they gave GameStop a whole bunch of tokens. GameStop dumped it to the market, and nothing really came out of that partnership. So I think that's another reason why the crypto community didn't take that announcement so well. Go ahead, Daniel.
Yeah, this was about Polygon, but let's I don't want to deviate your topic here.
No, you could go to Polygon. I was done with my IMX rant.
Yeah, no, GameStop, right? That's I don't know, anybody buying GameStop?
Oh yeah, GameStop ran last week. No, I didn't get
Yeah,
any
they're saying
GameStop.
that's the ultimate game, right? Like they're gonna be right, and that thing is gonna fucking explode. But no, going to Polygon, I was gonna ask you guys, like, what do you think about adding to the FUD, right? Obviously, but like there is really no need for a side chain, if you will, like Polygon Matic, right? And they're like investing, they're buying all this like ZKs and whatnot, L2 solutions. What do you guys think is like the ultimate goal for Matic? Is it like, like if you hold Matic, they're gonna just move everyone to their zk solutions and destroy Matic? Because there's no reason to break down your total your liquidity, right? Your total value locked. You know, I'm rambling, but what do you guys think?
Yeah, look, one thing I like about Polygon is they're a good business development chain. They've done amazing work to bring Starbucks
That's true.
NFTs and a number of big corporate partnerships. YouTube, I think the head of YouTube or something came to Polygon. They've done an incredible job. But again, in terms of Matic's treasury, they're selling Matic into the market. So at least that's what the on-chain data says, and people have written threads about it on Twitter. So search it. But yeah, I'll let someone else take the other nuances there.
Oh, I mean, we could FUD Polygon all day long, but let's be nice to Polygon. No, I mean, we talked about this like a month ago. The one, and I don't know what the wallet is now, but at that point, it was the fifth largest wallet for Matic was like a scam project, basically. I don't know whether that project sold off or not, but they were the fifth largest wallet, which was basically like some type of scam that was going around Matic. Go ahead, Danny.
Well, yeah, but Web3 gaming, what is happening with Amazon? Because Amazon wanted to integrate in Web3. I've seen Morales and everything, but is there any other information about it?
What do you mean with Amazon?
Well, Amazon wanted to integrate in gaming on Web3.
They do have an Avalanche partnership, and there's been some recent announcements, but I don't think everything is like, I don't think there's actually anything happening
Okay,
yet.
yeah, it's just, yeah, it's talking right now. Okay,
The
cool.
biggest thing for Amazon is their upcoming NFT marketplace. And so I would implore or get everyone to go search Amazon NFT marketplace. Because again, they still have 300 million users. And on day one, they'll say, hey, we have this new digital collectibles marketplace, blah, blah, blah. We're launching with these brand partners, etc. So that will be quite significant. As for the technology behind that, I think they're doing their own kind of blockchain thing. Uh, with the hopes maybe one day that will be interoperable across the ecosystem. But yeah, Amazon is a big player on gaming. I mean, AWS powers most of any sort of games out there, as well as a lot of the crypto infrastructure is actually powered by AWS as well. So.
Yeah, and Active, just to add into what you mentioned about AVAX, I know they do have a partnership that you can basically like do a one-click subnet through like some type of AWS functionality. And shout out to the AVAX team. I don't know if you guys saw their gaming booth at GDC. Like that's the type of shit that we need to see. That was not a crypto only conference, and to see like a blockchain out there repping for Web3 gaming with a great setup. It was great to see. So shout out to the AVAX community. And just in general, like Dana, you were talking about like what's going to happen to Matic and this and that. I don't like the way that I see it, just from what we're seeing it, like all these like AVAX has the subnets. Even on the BNB side, they're coming out with different chains. They have the Greenfield. They're coming out with the zk blockchain. So, and I know I asked this last time, like, is the way to scale, up or sideways? Because we're seeing so many side chains, come out. So I don't think Polygon's going to get rid of their main chain. I think they're going to have that chain. They're going to have the IMX gaming chain, and then they're going to have their zk chain, in my personal opinion. Go ahead, Wagme.
Oh, Def was first, so go for a Def, then I'll go after that.
Yeah, and Jess, you touched on it perfectly. That was exactly what I was thinking. In the sense of when we think side chains, or whether they be rollups or an existing plug-in network, the question comes down to it is does it have its own token that's associated with the network, or is it utilizing a wrapped version of the token that's, say, in like the sense of Matic? If it was like a side chain for Matic, if they were still utilizing the Matic token and just have the wrapped version of it on there, it doesn't take away from the liquidity of an aspect of the way that the network would be operating. It actually helps in the supply and demand ratio, where the demand, if goes up, the supply is actually down.
Yeah, I think it's a great question because we get to see the real motives of actors and how they implement the value for their tokens, right? So in the case of Optimism and Arbitrum, right, the transaction fees are in ETH, right? Now in Polygon, on their Chalice chain, obviously transactions are in Polygon, right, in Poly. And with the announcement of Immutable X, what was interesting is the chain, right, the zk rollup that they're about to release, the transaction is going to be denominated in IMX. So I don't know what that says about IMX, but that's interesting that they're not using ETH. Or maybe you have like a dual system. We can use both ETH and IMX. But the validators will be using Matic, right? The validators for the rollup. So they'll be both using Matic and IMX, so they'll add value to both of those tokens. And to your point, Jess, I think that if I had to reverse engineer the thinking of the Polygon leadership, they're thinking that zk rollups are the future. That's why they're betting the bank on it. That's why there are 5 different projects that go in that direction, and it's going to take a while for them to onboard their existing clients off of their sidechain or POS onto zk rollups. It's just going to take time for volume and bridges and integration, all that stuff to be ready to be onboarded. So they'll probably keep their POS for a long time, but I do think that they generally are looking to move away, right? So as soon as they can, as soon as they feel like all the big partners are on their ZKs, not that they necessarily need to phase it out, but I don't think they really want to maintain it. I think they're really betting the bank on layer 2s.
Great take. Great take.
Hey Jess, sorry, I pinned the latest pinned tweet is a guy named Coop. He's part of the Avalanche team on the gaming side. So if anyone is interested in following someone really close to Avalanche Gaming, because that's what we were talking about a little bit earlier, he's the guy to follow. And also, I got to drop. I have a young kid that I go attend to, but I want to. A young son, I want to say thanks for having me, Jess. This has been a lot of fun and would love to hop on here in the future.
Thanks so much for coming by. Yeah, we appreciate you. Yeah, and follow Coop. That's exactly who I follow and was seeing all his videos. So yeah, thanks for sharing that, JD. But yeah, thank you for coming, and we appreciate you sticking around.
Love it.
Have a great weekend and come back.
Thanks, everyone. I'll see you guys later.
Later, JD,
Thank
man.
you. Have a great
It was
weekend.
great to have you on.
See ya.
Yeah, and we're actually going to wrap it up a little bit earlier today. I have one more thing to talk about because I have a meeting I have to prep for. But yeah, let's loosen it up a little bit. Daniel's here. His favorite topic. So, BitBoy. Sorry.
My man, BitBoy. What about BitBoy?
Sorry, I can't.
Your BFF, Daniel. Your BFF.
You got it, Tammy.
Love BitBoy.
Yeah.
So
Love
the lawyers
What did he
behind the FTX class action suit say they are being harassed by BitBoy.
Did you see the message that he sent?
Oh wait, they
Yeah, I'm
filed
gonna
a
put it up.
countersuit. Is that what you said, or they filed a suit against him?
Yeah, they're saying that the lawyers are saying that BitBoy is harassing them. So yeah, just
I kind of can't disagree, and I haven't even seen what all this shit that he's done, but it was kind of wild in the beginning.
Yeah, they shared an email. Are you pinning that, Jess? Did you see that? Did you read it? I mean, I don't know if it's legit. I'm assuming it is because BitBoy commented on it, but I was like, damn, he came in hot on that email.
Yeah, I don't know what he could have been thinking. I mean, if you didn't have an issue beforehand, you somehow created an issue for yourself now, at least.
Wasn't he already suing other people? So karma's a bitch? Pardon my French?
Sorry about that. Somebody was calling me. Yeah, I don't know. He's been involved in so many different things. 2 weeks ago, he was talking about he was gonna dox the SHIB founder. I don't know what happened with that. That went quiet. Johnny, go ahead.
Yeah, I love talking shit about BitBoy. It's in that way, I really actually like him a lot. Like he provides something value, meaning he's gonna get his ass kicked in this lawsuit. I think he is saying all sorts of stuff about how, oh, I didn't even get paid. You don't have to get paid if you're shilling an unregistered security, which is this lawsuit is going to be yet another civil test of whether or not they're going to put, FTT token to the Howey test and all that. It doesn't matter if you got paid or not. That's why you always need to say not financial advice, like blah, blah, blah. Because it's a strict liability offense, which means if you go out and say, buy this shit coin because you have a bag or for any reason, and it turns out to be an unregistered security determined by the court, you're liable. So he's going around telling, I never got paid. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And if his lawyers haven't told him that, then they suck. If they can't keep him on a leash, they suck. His lawyers are probably going to quit is what's going to happen.
Johnny, so I'm going to defend BitBoy here for a minute because I did share that video with you 2 months before the FTX downfall. He was on video, saying fuck FTT, fuck Solana, warning his audience. So where does that play into?
Too little, too late. Once you do it, once you shill it, you can't unshill it. It's like putting toothpaste back in the tube. He shilled it. He deleted all the videos of him shilling it. And yeah, he's gonna, he turned sour on them, right? Because I think they said some things about him that he took offense to, and he flew off the handle and then had a vendetta against them. Great, that's fine. But you did what you did. You are who you are. That doesn't undo it. And even I got suckered into his redemption arc, which, I still hope he comes around, but that's not going to happen. Like the email you saw, right? That's who he is, right? And that's the kind of person that sends an email like that. It's the kind of person that's also involved in a bunch of not good stuff. And he's going to get his comeuppance. It's going to start piling on, and his lawyers are probably going to quit, and he's probably going to get a restraining order slapped on him. And eventually he will shut up and apologize once they get him where it hurts within the next year or so.
Even when... Oh.
No, go ahead, Tammy.
I was going to say, even this whole space moves so fast. I don't even remember when this was, but even when he said what he said about Kevin O'Leary, and I know everybody has their thoughts on him, but talking about the accident that they got in, and I mean, just putting that out on blast, I understand that that's, been talked about and it's been in the news, but just the way he went at it, I literally inside started to cringe. I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe he said that.
Same. I was just agreeing with you. It was very cringe. Very, very cringe.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens. But we do have Leo up here. Welcome, Leo. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Just wanted to say hi. Good topic. I actually want to join the lawsuit because it said it's going to zero. So I sold out early, and Solana went back up. So I don't know where I need to sign up. Is there a petition or something?
There is
I'm
a
just
petition.
kidding. I'm not suing anybody.
There is a petition if you want to join. I know you can DM me if you want.
I lose. I take it. I take it on the chin. I ain't suing nobody. It's my...
But one thing, oh shit, what was I going to say? I forgot. Oh yeah, something that you said, Johnny, that he doesn't have to get paid. He's still considered a shiller. So if I tweet, like I tweeted this morning that I claimed an airdrop, am I going to get sued if somebody loses money?
Probably.
So you can
probably not.
So the SEC will not sue you. However, civil prosecution can be done. And so in the sense of being aided by the SEC in the forms of money, right? I could see that being a strong possibility. So where the SEC doesn't directly have anything to do with suing you, they're aiding the whatever district you live in if there's a civil offense against you.
Right, and short of not disclosing that you're being paid, right? So there's two ways to be held liable. One, you don't disclose that you're being paid for shilling a security. It's a known and established security. You're shilling it. Like, for example, Tom Brady, we all know he was being paid to shill it. So he wouldn't be liable under that category. The other
What? That
category,
makes no sense.
the other,
He was in videos. Okay, so my tweet is bad, but he was in videos with fucking Sam Bankman, and that's
so
acceptable?
there's two categories though. So under that category, because there's a lawsuit against him and everything, under one category, you don't disclose that you're being paid. So he goes and tells all his NFL buddies, hey, everyone, we should get this. And he never tells them that he's being paid to promote it. They don't know, and it's security. You're liable, strictly liable. The other category is shilling an unregistered security for even if you're not being paid, and for you to be held liable under that, it needs to be determined that what you're shilling is actually a security that was unregistered. So that's, Jess, if you were, had a huge audience, which you have a growing audience for sure, so definitely keep this in mind, and you start saying, oh, I'm a Solana Maxi, blah blah blah, or whatever else, and it turns out that Solana is a security down the road, and you've been shilling it hard, that's where you get in trouble. And try not thinking about this in the crypto sense. Try thinking about it in the TradFi space, right? If you're going around shilling some sort of raffle or investment in some energy drink, or some other kind of security or land contract, you can't just go around willy-nilly doing that, because it's so commonplace in the DeFi space. It's just like everywhere, right? I think the liability is from a practical sense, very, 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 very low, unless you're someone like BitBoy or something like that. But really something we should always say, not financial advice, don't be hustling people to get stuff. You shouldn't. For your own personal ethics, don't be doing that. Don't expose yourself to that embarrassment when it goes south, and don't expose other people to that kind of risk. But we can all talk about things we like. That's different.
See,
Hey, Johnny.
yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tammy.
I just have one quick question, just because you touched on it. I'm sorry, Leo. I'll be quick. Just one quick question. That was what I had in mind. So does it have to do with you being an influencer or having this large following and this platform that you have? Does that play into it? Which you kind of answered that, I think.
I mean, that's going to make the case against you easier, right? There's no guarantees. This is not legal advice. There's no guarantees, but the person bringing the case against you, what are they going to have to show? They're going to have to show that you were trying to get everyone to buy, right? And that's a lot easier to do when you're when that person's an influencer. When you're not an influencer, they're gonna be like, "What the hell? It's not our fault that you took the advice of some anonymous person on Twitter to buy this." Like, no, get out of here. They're gonna go after the bit boys. But we should all just be very cautious about how we're playing up the things that we've got bags of or don't have bags of in a responsible way. That's a healthy thing to do.
Well,
by the way, Johnny will be our in-house attorney going forward. Just saying.
Not legal advice. I have not passed the bar yet.
No, I agree with you, and I try to be not pretty transparent about everything. That if I have something, I try to say it. My partners are clearly outlined on my profile. What else can I do to stay out of jail, Johnny?
I don't know. You've been shitting a whole lot of coffee lately, Jess, and I believe you have a whole lot of bags of coffee too. So if Gary Gensler goes after coffee and declares it a security, Jess, you are in big trouble.
I know. It sounds like I can't say anything. Like I can't tweet about anything. And disclaimer, I'm not a Solana maxi, but apparently if I talk about Solana, it's bad too. I don't know. Like, where do you draw the line? Like, unfollow me, everybody. Then I don't know. Like,
this is crazy. I mean, we're all going to jail.
Is it considered financial advice if I FUD pineapple pizza, Johnny?
What's wrong with
pineapple pizza? Is not a security.
Wait, you a New Yorker?
Wait,
and you're
no
shilling
one should eat
pineapple
that.
pizza?
Gross.
No,
you're a real New Yorker?
I'm fudding pineapple pizza. I FUD it all day. I just want to make sure that it's not financial advice because I'm telling people not to put I don't want them to put it on. You know what I mean?
People should not be putting pineapples. Pineapples do not belong on pizza.
Actually,
people, stop it.
It tastes really good.
Gary Gensler should go after that. Anybody who does it should go to jail. No Wells
Whoa,
notice, train
whoa,
prosecution.
whoa. Dal, you should be ashamed of yourself,
To
bro.
each his own. I'm not
It's
crazy
called
about
Hawaiian pizza,
to each
people.
his own.
Disgusting. Let's move on.
Oh, I just wanted to make sure, I don't want to go to jail for telling people not to put stuff on their pizza, because for
I mean,
all
the
I know,
pineapple industry might come after you and sue you, but I think that's your only concern.
What you could get in trouble for, Nico, is, and actually, a citrus fruit is at the heart of the Howey test. The Howey test was developed off a case that had to do with orange groves and land contracts related to, or investment contracts related to oranges. So just stay away from citrus generally, and you should be good.
Yeah,
So
and the
like,
there is
good
a
thing,
chance.
Johnny, back to your point of you're scared, you're spooking everybody. The good thing is that there is no clear regulation that any of this is security. So we're just talking about digital assets, and yeah, I'm gonna go with that one.
No, don't do that, because that's what Coinbase was doing. Well, in good faith, just trot along. Just don't shill stuff. That's a
Yeah,
good rule.
yeah, but I think okay. So shill is like a very loose term. Like having a conversation about crypto is not shilling. Saying buy this is gonna go to the moon, that's fucking shilling. You want to make your 10x, buy this, that's shilling. So
rocket ship emojis.
No,
oh yeah,
just
rocket.
education. Jess, I see your space as an educational space. That is
Why are
free.
you trying to spook me over here? Oh God, Hector's coming.
You know what's
Good.
crazy? Like Dogecoin to the moon, we're going to jail. Like I said it how many times in 3 years? Shiba Inu to the moon. We're screwed.
Oh, you're definitely going to jail.
Jess, I
Speaking
think
of which,
he's still
Elon needs
sore.
to be on the hook before anybody else. Elon should be going to jail before we should.
Elon has been
That's
charged with this
active.
kind of stuff.
Those are fucking securities. Yeah, why aren't these motherfuckers in jail? And why should we be worried about our tweets? Yeah.
But
Oh,
I mean, does NFA protect you, Johnny? Like NFA? Like,
No,
I don't know,
I'd be like,
NFA.
Faye, go buy Ripple. No,
Can I
that's
just
stupid.
say, whoever said that shilling, they're right. I mean, if you like do the research and if it's something that you would buy yourself and you would sell to yourself, then that's fine. But what happens is a lot of these influencers, they don't care. When they see that $50,000 getting thrown at them at the table, they'd sell their mother for it. So that's the problem. But if I look at something and I say, hey, you know what? I really like this product. This is something I would want to buy myself. I'm going to tell my family and I'm going to tell my followers. But if
That's how you don't get invited to family parties anymore,
well,
man.
you're going to tell your best friend like Jess and Tammy.
Hey, but if that was a real concern, wouldn't they go for the people that stock tweets? Like those guys are fucking like that's insane. If you think just tweeting with a hash,
It doesn't mean that.
hash or whatever, hashtag.
Yeah, I used
Hashtag.
to do that. But just kidding. the thing is, I forgot where I was going. The thing is, if it's not gonna make you like 100% safe, but it's gonna make you a lot safer, I guess, because you're doing your due diligence and you're making sure that you're not because you're not shilling. You actually think there's value in that project or in that coin or in the NFT. You really love it, and you sell it to your friends and family or whatever you have, your dog, whoever's with you.
It won't be too bad, dude. Like we will be all in jail.
No,
Like
none
all
of
of
it
us.
matters because Hector's entered the room and all your bags are going to zero.
Oh shit!
And also,
Just get a
I can
cell
blame
with a bunk
not
bed.
financial advice. That is this.
But Hector has financial
falls
advice.
in all of this.
All
He's a
right, guys,
BSB
I
influencer.
gotta wrap up soon, so let's let Hector go.
You're welcome, Hector.
I think to DeFi Daniel's point, like that actually occurred. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Zach Morris. He's like one of the big groups of guys who were talking about small cap, low cap stocks. Like the SEC charged them and came after them for their $100 million pump and dump scheme. Like there's like 8 people that were noticed in by the SEC, and they're all awaiting or trying to figure out what's going on with their future. I'm not saying I know. I just telling you like this exists. If you promote something and you don't give disclosure, that's why when like you speak to VCs, they don't tell you that they own something because they want to sound cool. They tell you that they own something because they're trying to avoid being persecuted by the SEC. They say, hey, yeah, Uber's a great thing. By full disclosure, I own Uber. So whatever I'm telling you, make sure you understand that I'm a investor in Uber. So those things are those not saying not financial advice and then going and proceeding following that with offering financial advice does not absolve you from the
Darn.
advice you're giving. So just to be completely clear that that's just what people say, and the reason you're not being followed for is because you're not a big fish. The big fish are the ones who have sway and potential like influence, like these guys in the small cap world. They're the ones the SEC looks at, and so that's why I think it's very, very important that you fully disclose any position that you may have when speaking about anything, because it just protects you and gives people a context as to
Exactly.
whether or not you have
So
financial
Hector, I just
interests.
wanted to say, like,
Now,
you're right about that, bro. Like, just be real, man. Don't try to be like a salesman. Just like look at the actual project. Do your due diligence. Like, don't just I'm gonna get 50,000. Don't look at the money because you're gonna for $50,000 you're gonna go to jail. For $50,000 you're gonna get sued.
And we just saw it with everyone else. Like we just saw Soldier Boy, Jake Paul. Jake Paul today was fined $400,000 by the SEC for failing to disclose.
yeah,
So
now, Hector,
uh,
why do you think
Yeah,
they
but
go after those?
that's the same thing that you're saying about the small caps, Hector, because they were promoting small cap cryptos.
Well, yeah, and so why do you think they go after those actors, Hector?
because they have large influence. They have the ability. They don't just say it to like I don't say it to my mom and be like, "Hey, mom, yeah, I love Ethereum
You
Max,
would be a
whatever it
bad
is."
kid, man.
They literally their purpose is to tell everyone, "Hey, this is a cool project." Like you don't just go say this is a cool project on social media for fun. You say it because you know there's a sphere of influence that you have, and that when you say something, it causes a response, right? So I think that's the issue that they're seeing, and without failing to disclose that, hey, I am also being paid for this to tell you guys, which is also another thing that's found out later is that Jake Paul didn't just say it because he wanted to. He was actually paid to do that. And so that's failure to disclose that he's, a paid spokesperson in a sense for this project or for any project. So if you are being paid, you must disclose that you are being paid. If you have a position, you should disclose that position you have. Like when you look at like traditional stocks, whenever you read anything from like Seeking Alpha or anything, like the author at the end says, I don't have any position in this stock, or I have a position in this direction, and I am not going to make a movement within the next 72 hours. Like they tell you that to protect their own ass.
They can come look at my wallets. My great grandmother's laughing at me right now. So they'll laugh at me in court and they'll let me go because I got nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Fucking show them your wallet. Like, go after the people that have rugged us. Yeah, go after those people. Go after all the dead dogs in
I
my
think
wallet. But Hector, I have I have a question for you before we wrap up. I did see that they're doing ordinals on BSV. Why are you guys copying BTC if BSV is so much better?
Oh, so they're doing ordinals. I think there's a lot of ordinals already. Like a lot of people have minted them. But the reason and the purpose is that this is a protocol that's being adopted across proof of work chains. So Doge has it, Litecoin I think has it, Bitcoin obviously has it. The purpose there is that if a developer understands, it's like the EVM compatibility thing, right? Like if you're an ETH developer and you can build on ETH, you can build on any EVM compatible chain. So once you build and learn how to build on BTC and you can move the Dogecoin to do the same thing, the purpose here is that, oh, okay, I understand ordinals and the ordinal protocol. I can then move to BSV in the event I have some sort of need that surpasses the chain's capacity. So that's kind of what the purpose of why people are deciding to build it. And it's not like, the
so.
central figure.
You're for the multi-chain now.
No. The purpose is to basically absorb the limitations of every other chain. So when BTC and Doge suck, right? Because they like right now we're seeing it, mempool's at almost 1 gig. So it was at 300 like right now the 300 is the max, like the default average. So a node who has a copy, they're defaulted at 300 megabytes in pending transactions. So everything that's above 300 megabytes falls off. So essentially they lose it and they just delete the oldest ones from their memory. So that what that causes is that if you're too cheap or you can't pay enough, everyone else who has default settings basically deletes your transaction. You have to resubmit a new transaction in the future. That is now being killed essentially because it's now 800 to almost a gig worth of pending transactions. So you either have to up your storage requirement, or you have to rely on less parties to keep a copy of your transaction, which is obviously the case. And miners are the most incentivized to keep a copy of your transaction because they get paid for it. And so I think that's kind of just speaking to the need for a more scalable solution if ordinals were to become more and more adopted.
Because they're
what's crazy?
limited with their 21 million Bitcoin, so they would have to transfer to BSV.
I don't know what the number has to do.
I'm sorry, so they're limited of the size that they can implement as, let's say, certain ordinals, NFTs, and everything else like that. So they can't be unlimited.
Yeah, that's what I got the vibe why Hector was happy. So I think, Hector, in your eyes, you think that this will actually lead to traction or volume on BSV when others want to interact or realize the other chains are.
Well, I'm not like again, to be clear, like I'm not the one doing anything on ordinals. Like the people who created the ordinals or added the ordinals protocol inside of BSV, like they did it on their own volition. Like they're just some group of devs that just said, hey, we're going to do this on BSV. We're going to show everyone that if you want to use it, you can use it cheaply on BSV and not have to worry about like this huge pending thing that is currently going on BTC. Like right now we have, you know how they always tell you like, oh, I can get a transaction in for 1 sat per VByte. Like right now your transaction is 28 sats per VByte and memory usage is at 1 gig. There's 67,000 pending transactions that are willing to beat you. So we talked about this with the guy from Africa, I think from Ghana. We call it the Oken issue. This guy, his name's Oken. And so he, back then when it was like probably 400 megabytes of pending transactions, he was saying, I don't understand what we're doing here with ordinals. And this is a BTC guy. I don't understand what we're doing with ordinals. This is not what Bitcoin, and my belief is what it was for. Like, I'm over here in Nigeria or Ghana, one of those two, trying to open a Lightning channel, and it's costing me more than what it costs for a loaf of bread. So now I'm making a decision on whether or not I can feed my family a loaf of bread or open a Lightning channel to pay things with Bitcoin. And that was half ago. That was like when less usage was occurring with ordinals. Now we're double that. Oken no longer decides whether or not he wants to open a Lightning channel. He can't. And so the idea of banking the unbanked and doing all this bullshit, like, no, this is not what this is doing. This is giving people the ability to speculate on JPEGs on BTC because they can write on chain. And so if people want to continue that, and they also want to do, sending money back and forth in emerging markets, that's what these people are deciding, hey, let's create a protocol where we can allow both to occur. And so that's why these developers decided to do it on BSV.
And it's not every day I get to hear you so excited about something.
Not that I'm excited. It's interesting to just see it play out. Like I've been calling this for a while. Like BTC has a limitation. Like you're seeing the limitation play out in real time right now, and people are okay with it because they're able to speculate on BTC assets now. And so that's fun. And that's what we saw with ETH. Like this doesn't really solve anything. It's just giving you another way, a new casino has opened and everyone's excited to come in and see if they can win or not. And so that's fun,
There he is.
I'm not arguing. It's fun. Like I agree, it's fun.
We knew he'd come out.
Let's do it, right? Let's have fun. But to say that we're solving problems and actually doing real things, like Oken is a prime example and a very, it's an anecdotal example, I agree, but generically speaking, this becomes expensive. This becomes expensive for the majority of the world that you're supposedly trying to help, who doesn't have access to banking and all that BS, right? You're not doing that. You're literally not doing that. You're prohibiting that from occurring because there is a limitation to the block space. And the BTC Maxes will tell you the block space is scarce. So only luxury things will be done on the block space eventually. Only Prada and Louis Vuitton and Yuga Labs will be writing to the chain. Well, these guys could give a flying fuck about Yuga. They could give a flying fuck about all this stuff. They want to open Lightning channels to be able to transact in commerce. But apparently that's not the mission anymore. The mission is now scarce block space for the most elite companies in the world.
Hector, you need to disclose your BSV bags right about now.
Oh, it's fully aware. My BSV bags are full disclosure. I am and have been always a BSV supporter.
Wait, but
yeah, now we gotta list out our fucking holdings every time we come on spaces with Johnny. I have like $500 worth of Arbitrum that I bought this morning. I'm just disclosing that. I do not plan on selling
I
it.
lost my airdrop in the boating accident. It happened again. It was
Are we going from the
unaccepted.
top all the way to the
You
bottom?
had a lot of boating accidents.
What else do I need to what else do I need to claim?
Johnny, do we need to claim our rugs to you? Like the ones that, like, the stuff that we act like, yeah. Do we have to claim that stuff? The
No, you just put that in your
Nico.
hidden folder
Is
on
anybody
OpenSea.
getting
Don't worry.
paid by right to be a BSV Maxi?
I wish I
Yeah,
could do that, right? That'd be nice.
were you ever paid to shill BSV, Hector?
Yeah.
No, you can take that to Gary Gensler himself.
Has
I've never
anybody
been
been
paid
paid
by
to
anyone.
FUD XRP in the BSV
No,
security?
Oh
XRP FUD's
wait,
That
I
can
have
be
some
done for
breaking
free.
news. Breaking news. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen calls top U.S. financial regulators in for an unscheduled meeting today that is closed to the public.
So Bellagio
Oh,
was
really?
right.
The
Oh,
banking system is safe, guys. Don't worry about it. The
They're
banking
fucked.
And Jim
system is
Cramer,
safe.
this is the other breaking news. Jim Cramer says Deutsche Bank is just fine.
Okay, I'll make a
Yeah, why
deposit.
isn't Jim
Shorted.
Cramer
Get
getting
out.
sued by the SEC?
Seriously?
Yeah,
Open the short
we're
for
good, guys.
Deutsche.
Don't listen to Johnny. We're good. No, I'm playing. Listen to Johnny.
But
Disclose the
here's
fact.
why. Do you want to know why he's not? Because everyone knows he's getting paid to shill securities, and he's not shilling unregistered securities.
How
That's
does everybody know that? Does he say that at the beginning of every
because he's
show?
on a goddamn TV show. Everyone knows.
Oh, so we have to assume it.
Wait, but
Yeah.
isn't he a licensed financial advisor in the first place? So
Yeah,
is
there's
he
a
like
whole different
allowed to
category.
shill
He might be.
securities?
I'm overstepping my in front of my skis on this one. He is in a weird category.
Yeah,
But like,
he is he's a licensed financial advisor. He worked in a hedge fund or he worked on Wall Street, one or the other.
Got it.
So I believe he's allowed to shill stocks and whatever the fuck he's doing.
Yeah, he worked at Goldman.
So I don't think the federal government is going to arrest you for being stupid.
Licensed to shill?
Because
No, they
it is
won't.
a license to shill. The federal government isn't going to sit there and tell you, oh, because you didn't know that the entire fucking banking system is going to collapse and SVB is like. I don't think they can arrest you for being stupid.
Oh, good. Thanks.
But
They're
no,
not going after us, little
What?
people. Don't worry about it, Jess. They're not coming after us.
No, I'm talking about.
Wait, just act
Sorry,
stupid.
I'm
That's it.
talking about Jim Cramer specifically.
All right, guys.
Specifically talking about Jim
I'm sorry to cut
Cramer.
you guys off. Sorry, guys. But I have a call I have to get on in 3 minutes, and I do want to give us a minute to wrap up. But thank you everybody for coming. It was a great conversation, and I know we could keep it going for hours and hours. But before we wrap up, I do want to throw it over to Dow and Tammy for any last comments and anything coming up this week.
Yeah, I love the space. Love the interview that we had with Handle.Fi and JD. I think he added a lot of value about the project, about trading Forex on chain. I think that's amazing. He has some good input as well for the conversation. So, yeah, looking forward to talk to you guys next week. And I'll be back with Farmers Market this Wednesday to talk about liquidity, staking derivatives, so like staking ETH. So, yeah, just come through if you're
The show's
interested.
at 12, right? Tell me it's at 12.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, EST noon, I think. Oh, the daylight changed. I don't know. It's 6 p.m. Central European time. That's what I can say.
All right. Looking forward to that. Thank you, Dow, and congrats on the Arbitrum airdrop. And to everybody who was, paying close attention to what Dow was saying, congrats to you guys too.
Which was not financial advice, and which I love.
Not financial advice, yes. And Tammy, what's going on?
oh, I just wanted to say it was another great space. Per the usual, I learned something every Friday in your spaces, and I appreciate everybody that comes up and contributes and everybody that you bring in. And I'm doing this specifically for Johnny because I did not mention them today. I'm going to mention credit unions, y'all, with this whole banking issue. I just have to do it. So look into them. That's all I'm going to say. Am I going to shill them? Yeah, I'm shilling them.
Tammy, why is that? Because they don't use FDIC, right? What do they use as insurance?
NCUA.
Okay.
So it is the same type of insurance. They are insured. They are federally insured, but they are with NCUA instead of FDIC. So it's fundamentally, it is the same thing. And you do have the same coverages, but I just suggest going to the smaller. They try and steer you away from those, but the regionals and the smallers, I'm telling you guys, people need a bank. They need a place to conduct business, and those are the ones that I say that you should be at. So
Right.
not financial advice, but kind of financial
Wait,
advice.
but you can't
But
cover yourself
anyway,
with
Wait,
saying that.
meta. Sorry, let me
Yep.
mute everybody. Sorry, gotta wrap it up. Gotta go.
Yep, we're
But
wrapping it up.
before I go, just sorry, Meta, but I'm on the clock. Gotta run. So last thing, thank you everybody for coming. Thank you to all the speakers and all the listeners. I'll be back on Wednesday at 11 a.m. That's why I was asking you, Dal, with Cyber Connect. Check them out if you haven't. I'm actually doing POAPs for this show on there, and you could check out link 3 in my profile. This is not sponsored. I just actually like the tool, so I hope the SEC doesn't come after me for shilling link 3, which is just a tool in my profile. And with that, thank you guys. Have a great weekend. I'll catch you around Twitter. Bye.
Have a great weekend.